Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight's guest is Aage Nost. I don't know why it's taken us so long to get him on. I should have had him on a long time ago. This is right up my alley of my biggest interest, is the idea of universal consciousness. He's also the host of Broadcast Team Alpha, his Universal Consciousness Show, Broadcast Team Cast Alpha. I gotta remember that. He hosts both of those. He's got a lot more than that, though. He was a pilot. He's from Norway, but he has a lot lot of good concepts on the idea of this universal consciousness or consciousness controlling reality, or the idea, or do we live in a virtual reality, a synthetic reality, a matrix? We're gonna get into all those concepts tonight, and then he wants to try something with the audience tonight. We're gonna try this. What did he call it? Mind. Oh God, I totally lost it. We're gonna experiment. Totally lost the name of the concept. What is it? Mind. I'll get it in a second. It's a mind thing. We're gonna try to affect the hurricane right now, Dorian, or Dorian. Sorry, Dorian, is that the name of the hurricane? Totally wiped out the Bahamas. I saw the videos of that. It's devastating. And Rob's with us from St. Augustine, Florida, getting ready for this hurricane. So we really want to get your help tonight. We're gonna try our best to move the hurricane off. Do or do not. There is no try, right? Well, that's what we're gonna do tonight. And of course, we got the World Wide Web of Weird, and we got a lot of weird to get to. So let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. We are live on our page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, Paranormal Soup. For those listening on our Paranormal Soup radio network, you can watch us. We are a webcast. Speaking of that, let me go ahead and bring up my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm really excited about tonight, and I'm excited to try this mind experiment too.
Oh, what was it? I got to get this right. I had it, and I said it over myself over and over again, so I wouldn't have to look at a note about it, and I totally lost it. I have it. He totally told me, he's like, I have an idea for tonight's show. And I'm like, oh, I'm sold. I totally want to do this. And now I totally lost it. What was it?
I totally slipped too. I cannot recall.
Mastermind. How hard is that to remember? Mastermind. That's what he called it. We're going to create a mastermind and change the path. Was it Dorian? Is that how the name of the hurricane?
Dorian? I believe it's Dorian.
Dorian. All right, we better get it right, or we're going to send the other hurricane off somewhere else. I don't know. And also, speaking of hurricanes, from St. Augustine, Florida himself, Rob Archery. How you doing tonight, Rob? Oh, and now we got his picture. Hopefully he's there.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm scatterbrained as usual. Yeah, I've been prepping. I heard there's a storm coming my way, and I've been kind of.
You heard?
Yeah, heard. Yeah, something about it.
Just a little bit of something about it.
Yeah,
well,
mastermind that thing the hell out of here.
Yeah, we're going to try tonight. The World Wide Web of Weird tonight. I didn't get to talk to you beforehand, Rob. When we get to Article 5, we're going to skip past that. We're going to save that for the end. We'll go back to it. Okay. Try to remember that. We'll try to do that. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I figure we might as well get just this one right out of the way. Since everybody's talking about it, it seems to be the massive alien face structure found in Antarctica via Google Maps. I went and checked it out. The pictures I'm going to show tonight are the ones I took myself off of my phone by Google Maps, and you can definitely see a face. Again, for those listening on our Paranormal Soup radio network, we are a webcast. You can see the show on our Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook page, and you can watch it also on YouTube. In both chat rooms, we can show your guys' comments up here on the screen. Where's my YouTube people? Come on, man. I see the Facebook people. Where's my YouTube people? But we can show your comments up on the screen. And you can watch the videos and clips like this. We have alien face structure found in Antarctica via Google Maps is from unofficial networks. Instagrammer UFO Scandinavia has located what they believe to be a massive alien face on the white continent using Google Maps. We investigated ourselves on Google Maps, and it indeed is there. 72 degrees by 00, 36.00 south, 168 degrees, 3440 east are the coordinates. Do you want to believe this is real? A massive alien face structure that was just discovered by humanity? Talk about living in exciting times. Well, I don't know. So if I go ahead and pull up the other images, there should be several. That's where it's located there. I have several images here for Rob to pull up. The last one is one I've always wanted. It's not the face. It's something else on the same continent. But here's the first set here. Where is it? Why am I not seeing the alien face in this picture? Is that what it's doing? Go to the next picture. I think this is my outside shot where the mountain is. It's not as easy to flip through here as it was the old way, I know.
Here it is. You see it here.
Throwing some curveballs for Rob. Here it is. So this is what everybody's seeing, the alien face. I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the 90s with the Mars, the X-Files. I want to believe, and the Mars face. And I thought there was a lot to that because, they had the Sidonia site and the pyramids and all this stuff they would talk about, but this is just like some random phase out in the middle of Antarctica. I mean, I know there's pyramids people see there and stuff like that. And I don't know. Go to the next one. I took it from different angles and it looks like a face, but the debunkers to the Mars face was that it was just the angle. This is at a different angle. Look how flat it does look. It still looks like a face, but it doesn't look like it's coming up out of the ground. It looks more flat from this angle. And it looks like there's two different parts, like probably ridges or from a mountain line or something there. I don't know.
Like the new crop circle.
Yeah.
I still see the face.
Yeah, you do. I have another angle of it. Go ahead. There's a YouTube comment. I want to believe. I hear you. Yeah. See, I was an X-Files fan. Let's see. And then the last one I have is one I've always wanted to know what the heck this is in Antarctica. And I don't know. You can't really miss it. It's really big and bright, but it's the last one I have in the slides for Article 1. Yeah, here's another angle of it. This is from back behind it and above. Still looks like a face. It does. But it's to me, it could be pareidolia. I mean, we could just be making images out of nothing. Somebody's going to have to go up there and find out, right? No.
Yeah,
all right.
It's pretty weird. Whatever.
Yeah, you're really quiet, Rob. Your volume.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. That's better.
It reminds me of Freddy Krueger when the bodies are pushing through the skin like that.
Yeah. All right. Go. There's one more picture. Show this one. This is my thing. I've showed it on the show years ago. I found on Google Maps. Anybody know what this is? I don't think I actually put the coordinates. I might have put the coordinates in the picture. I don't remember.
Yep.
Yeah, this thing. It doesn't come out so great, but you see this big. This is huge. There's this huge white lights, and it doesn't come out really great on here or my screenshot. God, I can't even see what are the coordinates, Rob? Can you read them?
70.1021 south, 87.4921 east.
Because that there's something there. Go to Google Earth, go back and watch this again. Listen to Rob repeat it. See if you can type that in. And
I'll type it in.
You do the work, people. But it's
You're
there.
really throwing in my ball today.
Just take a look around Antarctica. This is one thing you just can't miss. I want to know what it is. I want to know what that is. I've asked a couple of years ago and never got an answer. All right, let's move on before we run out of time because we got an amazing guest tonight and we're already 9 minutes into the World Wide Web of Weird on this. I knew that was going to happen. All right, move on. Okay, BBC.com, this article 2, massive child sacrifice discovered, maybe largest in Peru. We just had last two World Wide Web of Weirds where we talked about these weird places they're finding where these mass graves. This is a bunch of child sacrifice. Archaeologists in Peru unearthed what is believed to be the largest single mass child sacrifice in history. The bodies of 227 victims aged between 5 and 14 were found near the coastal town of Hunaco, north of Peru's capital, Lima. The children were believed to have been sacrificed over 500 years ago. The discovery comes barely a year after 200 child victims of human sacrifice were found at 2 other sites in the country. Archaeologists told the AFP news agency that some of the bodies in the latest collection still had their skin when they were dug up, because it's cold where they found them in the mountains. Oh, I got to put the article up there. That'd help. You see, for people listening, we have a little picture of the article, but I go to the BBC News to find more pictures. But they show this from aerial view of these all these little bodies in the snow. The Chima reside along Peru's northern coast and were one of the region's most powerful civilizations. They reached prominence between 1200 and 1400, and before being conquered by the Incas, who were in turn conquered by the Spanish. They worshipped the moon god Shi, which, unlike the Incas, they believed was more powerful than the sun. Devotees regularly use sacrifice and other offerings during spiritual rituals. Excavation work is continuing at the mass burial site, and archaeologists say more bodies may still soon be discovered. So, yeah, I didn't show all the gruesome pictures tonight on that one. I just had the little thing, but there's a lot if you go to the article. It's really creepy. And why children? Why did they sacrifice? If your gods ask for your children, then your gods suck, and who cares what the wrath is, you know? But that's people. That's people. All right, let's move on. I really hated. I could not find an article with the title of this story I liked, because every single article used werewolf syndrome or werewolf. And it's like, they're not werewolves. Don't use that term. There's a term for it. I'll get to your second. But here's from Unexplained Mysteries. And you know I like them because they have the short articles. Tainted drug turns babies into werewolves. See, there it goes. Into werewolves. They don't even say werewolf syndrome. Just say into werewolves, people. That was from Unexplained Mysteries. But here's the one from Metro. Children in Spain develop werewolf syndrome after taking contaminated medicine. At least they say werewolf syndrome from Metro. The bizarre accident reportedly happened when a special preparation of the acid reflux drug omeprazole, I don't know how to say that, became inadvertently contaminated with minoxidil, a drug used to treat baldness. Omeprazole, I'm so getting that wrong, is usually taken by adults in a capsule, but because young children are unable to swallow the capsule, it has been made into a special syrup. The babies who took the contaminated medicine ended up exhibiting symptoms of hypotrichosis, which is the actual what they should say instead of werewolf syndrome, which is characterized by abnormal hair growth all over the body. So far, there's been 16 reported cases, and 22 batches of the drug have since been recalled. You know, what I find interesting is how easily just one mess up like that, and it did this to these people. And then genetically that people have this. What I find interesting is when they say they find Bigfoot DNA, most of the time they say it's human with abnormalities, you know. I mean, look at these two guys here. I don't think these people are kids that got, these are actual people that have had the genetic hair growth. Look, I mean,
that's a good point.
You know, it's possible for humans to have hair on their face with one little alteration of their DNA or what you're giving them or whatever they're doing. So maybe Bigfoot is us, just they're really hairy and real big.
Maybe Neanderthal.
Do they have a Chinese menu in their hand?
Oh, jeez. All right, let's move on before we run out of time here. I'm always afraid I'm going to run out of time and then I get through it too quick. But I have something. Like I said, we're going to do this is number 4. When we get to 5, Rob, skip that. We'll come back to that for the end because I'm going to get on my soapbox a little. Not my soapbox, actually my paranoid. I'm worried everybody box. Okay, let's go to, speaking of Bigfoot, let's go to number 4 here. This was from Coast to Coast AM. This is one of those no provenance to the video, except that we know it's from Utah, supposedly, and it's from a couple who filmed it. Intriguing video posted on this week purportedly shows a couple encountering what they believe to be as a Bigfoot. They were driving along a dark road in the mountains of Utah. As often the case with possible footage of the famed cryptid, details surrounding the sighting are scant at best, with the identity of the witnesses as well the precise location and date of the incident is unknown at this time. I want to play this because I am not sure. I have so many World Wide Web of Weirds if I've had this on before. So I don't know, Jamie, Rob, when you see this, have you seen this before? Because I don't. It seems really familiar, but it is good footage. But at the same time, like,
right there. Stop, back up.
Oh, hold on, I got to put it up here. Go ahead.
Okay. Ready?
Yep, go.
Around this corner, I think. Oh, look, right there. Stop, back up.
It's the slow-mo of it's when you're really going to see it.
Gosh. Off the road.
See it?
Yeah.
It's like the back of it. Seems really familiar. Like they don't know the date of it or whatever. I'm like, man, if I had this on the World Wide Web of Weird, I could figure out the time that this video might have been posted. You know,
Can that be?
Videos resurfaces. I swear I played it before.
Yeah, I think I've seen it, but Yeah, that's pretty freaky.
It was on
It
Coast.
almost
They had it. Yeah, go ahead.
it almost looks like when the witches go in the woods, you know, and wear the I can't think of the word right now. Like
Their
the hooded capes, like the cape things
This
from
one,
the back.
we played this one last year.
Yeah.
That was another one in Utah. But I don't know. It does look like a hairy creature, and you can hear it in their voices that they're excited. Go ahead and play that again.
Oh, look right there. Right there. Stop. 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 Back up. Back up. Oh, look right there. Right there.
Yeah.
Stop. 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 Back up. Back up. It was right there. I just saw it.
So they must have seen it before they videoed it, and then she pulled out her phone, I guess, and they were trying to like track it down. Or is it because they knew their friend was out there in an ape suit and they were gonna try to make this video?
At first, I thought it was from the back, like maybe they walked up on somebody doing some sort of ritual out there, but
I don't know. All right, let's move on before we get that. All right, skip number 5, skip article 5, and let's go to number 6. This one, Jamie was like, shared. I'm like, I already got it in the World Wide Web of Weird. You know I do. This one, like I said, this is article 6. We're going to come back to 5 at the end. Sex robots with coding errors prone to violence and could strangle humans. This is from the dailystar.co.uk. All right, well, let me be sure to get the share screen of the sex robot here. Doll collector. Love this name. Hold on. I got to say this without totally losing it. All right, doll collector, brick doll banger. That's the name. That's the name they put. Okay.
Hey, if you're gonna make sex robots, he's got the perfect.
Yeah, that's like, you know, that's let me say this again.
Might as well own it.
Collector Brick Dollbanger fears what could happen if robots were not regulated. Sex robots plagued with coding errors could be prone to violent behavior, including strangling, an expert has warned. Doll collector Brick Dollbanger, he had to put his name in there again, dang it, fears violent repercussions if robots are not regulated properly. He believes a simple coding error could turn an AI girlfriend against their owner if they are equipped with a free will. And that was, you know, my dad, my stepdad, you know, one of the things I fell in love with him as a little kid when my mom first started dating was he had robots. And he had this one robot that had this big iron, like claw, like mechanism thing. And it would work. It would pick up cups and bring you. But then a glitch would happen. You know what that thing would do? Crush whatever was in its hand. And, you know, maybe that's why I've had no interest ever and never will of having sex with a robot. It's just not, one, gross, and 2, yeah, these things could possibly kill you. They're going to be stronger than you. It's just gross, people. I know there's lonely people out there. They're getting the sex dolls and stuff like that. But, man, I just don't think the sex robots are a good idea. Didn't work out for Austin Powers. They have guns pop out of their, you know what? I don't know. I know. It's funny. My next article is going to be the part that I think why they're going to become that the whole idea of that's going to become obsolete. Article 7, which is not actually Article 7, is more like 6 because I'm skipping 5 or coming back to it because it's a whole other thing. So we want to get through this quick, but this from Unexplained Mysteries. It was on a number of places. Total Recall could soon become a reality. So instead of sex robots, we won't need sex robots because we'll just put the implanted memory and make you have a whole experience. In the 1990 sci-fi fiction Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger character visits a company that implants false memories of adventures, relationships, and other life-changing experiences. But just how realistic is the idea of implanting memories of things that never happened? In a recent study, scientists demonstrated that it's possible to create false memories in animals by stimulating brain cells in the pattern of a natural memory. To do this, researchers effectively reverse engineered an existing memory by mapping the specific brain circuits underlying its formation and then reproducing it in the brain of a separate subject. So basically, you know, they just map one person's brain during an experience, record that, and they go put that in somebody else's brain. You know what it reminds me of? More than Total Recall, Brainstorm. Wasn't that, or was it Brain Scan? What was it? The one with Christopher Walken.
Brain scanners, maybe.
No, it wasn't Brain Scanners.
Okay.
Brainstorm. Pretty sure it was Brainstorm.
Yeah, I think you're right. What
was it? Brainstorm?
I think so.
I did, because as a kid, I was totally fascinated by that movie, and you know, my kids would be like, "Ooh, that's boring." But I love the idea of them implanting memories and that somebody recorded their memory of dying, and anybody who took that memory and played it back ended up almost dying or dying. Great movie. Go check it out. Christopher Walken. So, I mean, they won't need sex robots because why? They just can put the memories in you in a matrix. We're going to talk about that tonight with Aage Nost, our guest. the idea of a synthetic reality or a simulation. Are we in a simulation, or is this one big bad total recall dream and one of us are having it? I don't know.
Total recall, you won't get your junk crushed off by a robot.
Right. Well, this last article, I wasn't going to put it as number 5, but we're going to make this last because what is happening to the world? It's one of these, there's a lot of crazy stuff that's been happening in the news, and it seems like people are getting crazier and crazier. And I shared a post by Barry Taff, a guest we had on not long ago, who's kind of echoing stuff I've talked about on the show. Is like, it seems like society as a mass is going psychotic. Like, there's certain people. Why are certain people just going psychotic? That's not getting the argument of guns and all that, but certain people are just going psychotic. Something's happening. It seems to be increasing. This one from the Sun: stab attack, horrifying moment. Crazed knife woman randomly stabs a boy 3 years old in the face as he walks down the street with his parents. All right, you got that video?
Yeah, I would randomly go psycho at this point if I was a parent of a kid.
I would have murdered this woman. But we don't run out of time. Go play it. Yeah, I would totally murder this woman. It would, I don't blame the father for not. He took care of his kids. It's not blame on the father, but I would have saw red and just murdered this woman. There she is, just walking up and stabbing a 3-year-old in the face. The parents are like, "What's going on?" And they finally realize it. The wife's like, going mom mode, trying to protect her kids. She grabs one child's like, "Go get her." And then she brandishes the knife. Oh, the video cut off. That's my bad. Sometimes I get these videos and it cuts it off. You don't see her face or anything. Dang it. The video cut off. But yeah, she just walks up and tries to stab this poor child in the face. The father goes after her and she pulls a knife on him. He gets his one daughter away from her real quick. But yeah, I need to get my concealed carry now, I guess, because, crazy's just walking down the street with a knife. We have the Texas shooting again, and there's going to be another shooting, and, we take away the guns, and people are just going to stab people with knives, whatever. What's going on with people? Why have we gone to crazy town? What it's my thing I posted, and Barry Taff actually responded back to this one and said he's thought about this on a similar lines, is all the electromagnetic energy we've increased on ourselves over the last 50 years. Are we like what Art Bell would call the frog slowly boiling in a pot of water? We're not realizing the temperature's rising, and some people are being affected by it more quicker than others, or they're more susceptible to this, and it's affecting their minds. Or even yet, if there's entities that live in another dimension than us and they feed off electromagnetic energy, maybe it weakens certain people enough that they can get in like a parasite. And that's why, look, some of these shooters that say are demonic voices in their head. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're full of it and they're just trying to get off an insanity deal. But I've seen some of the video of these guys in interviews. Some of them really believe they were hearing demonic voices. I don't know. Something's happening. Something not good, and it feels like we are slowly it's happening more and more. And people are just snapping, just snap. We can blame, is it violence, TV, whatever. This is some woman down the street decides she's going to stab a kid. Or is it mental illness, just mental illness because we're not taking care of the mentally ill? I don't know. But it feels like something's changing and we're not asking the questions that we should be. I'm worried. I'm really worried. I don't want to go out in the public with my family. I'm just be honest. I got my kids and stuff, and you watch a video like this. I know the scare news networks love this kind of stuff for ratings and all that, but it does scare me. I don't want to go out in public with my kids. I used to say I own a gun and all that, but I didn't want to have to. If I never got a concealed carry, it's like if I have to go somewhere where I need to carry a gun, you know what? I shouldn't be going there. That's how I always thought about it. Now it's just go anywhere. Yeah, go anywhere. But that's it for the World Wide Web Weird. I know I didn't want to end on this, but I did because I wanted to have my minute to talk about, just am I alone in this, that I feel like people are there's some kind of psychotic breakdown happening in society, that people are, it's slowly affecting some people. And then maybe next year it's going to affect more people as we increase. We're going to 5G. We're messing with things we don't understand. That's what I'm saying. The true effects of them, what are the implications? It's what scares the heck out of me. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight's guest is Aage Nost. We're going to talk about the universal consciousness, the idea, are we living in a simulation like the Matrix? And we're going to try to, is it Dorian? Is that the name of Hurricane Dorian? It's happening. You don't have cable news anymore. Dorian. I don't know that. I just see it typed. I have no cable news, so I don't say fake news. Well, that's the wrong. See, I am hitting the wrong music lately. We're gonna go that. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. We're going to commercial break. Don't forget, check us out on our Patreon page. Help donate to the show so we can do cool things like show your comments up on the screen from our Facebook and YouTube channels and stream out to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. That all costs money. Your help on Patreon, $2 a month. You're going to get exclusive content there coming soon and help out the show. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break with our guest, Aage Nost.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
This fall, a new hard-hitting police drama is coming to Friday night. He was a well-to-do cop transferred to a troubled precinct downtown. His new partner is a space traveler with a passion for justice. It's Yuppie and the Alien.
Look, you might vaporize dissidents in Alpha Centauri, but in this precinct, we do it by the book.
I'm so terribly sorry, Captain.
Googa, I'm sorry.
Don't miss this one-of-a-kind police drama. They're fighting crime the hard way in designer clothes with $250,000 sports car and a UFO.
Partner, let's go cruise in the car and look moody.
One tough downtown precinct, two outsiders doing things their way. Yuppie and the Alien on VBC.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world, a world of darkness. Nobody expected it. Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it. The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist. Warner Brothers presents William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Bring life to the dead. 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 Enter the occult world of necromancy. You were brought here for one purpose. Necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era is the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Aage Nost. Aage Nost was born on a farm in Norway, Northern Europe, and later in life, after graduation from agricultural school or college, he operated the family farm for several years. Along the way, he spent 1 year in mandatory military service driving a battle tank in his country of Norway. At the age of 25, he left his country to go to the USA to attend flight school at the Emory School of Aviation in Greeley, Colorado, where after 1 year, he then graduated and has obtained his following pilot's license, commercial pilot license, instrument rating right instructor, multi-engine rating, and multi-engine instructor. Aage Nost has also worked various flight schools and air taxi operators. He taught the Subliminal Dynamics and Mind Development course, which teaches you to assimilate information from a book at the rate of 50,000 or more words per minute, and perfect memory, creative visualizations for healing and manifestation, creative goal setting, as well as other things. Not taught in the regular school system. He co-wrote the book Alien Encounters in the American Midwest, which featured hidden government documents proving the government cover-up of UFOs issues, NASA's prints of buildings and structures on our moon, you know I love that subject, and personal testimonies from people who have had the contact with extraterrestrials. He created the Road that published the Constitutional Liberator, a monthly newsletter covering controversial political issues, the truth behind truth, health issues, and banned medical cures at work, besides many topics the mainstream media do not want to touch. Fake news, mainstream media. All right, he's also the host of the Universal Consciousness Show. You can find it at www.universalconsciousness.show.com. You find him at Aage-Nost.com, broadcastteamalpha.com. And we will have the phone lines open later in the show after the second commercial break. And we're going to try this experiment tonight. We're going to try to Dorian, the hurricane. We're going to try to get it to move away from everybody. Let's make sure we get the right direction. We don't want to move it off to somebody else, but we want to move it away from Rob for sure, from St. Augustine, Florida, because we want Rob to keep coming back on the show. We don't want his house to be flooded or anybody else's. I saw the devastation on the news, and it's incredible. I didn't get to hear the name. I had it like on silent, but and my wife had to come down here and tell me what the name of the hurricane was. But tonight's guest, Aage Nost, he's going to lead us through the ideas of a universal consciousness. And do we live in a matrix? Phone lines later in the show, you call in and tell us, do you believe you live in a simulated reality? But let's go ahead and get to our guest. Are you there with me, Aage?
Yes, sir. I am right here in Tucson.
Welcome to the show. It's an honor to finally have you on. You've been my backup for a while. You're like, if any time, let me know. I'll come on. And I ended up not needing you, but many times I thought I might. I was like, oh, I get to have Aage on. But we got you scheduled. We got you on finally. And it's a true honor because ever since growing up, I've always had this idea. I've never been part of any religion of anything. My personal religion is I believe in a universal consciousness. Just something I come up with on my own as a kid. And the idea of a matrix and a simulated reality is kind of along the ideas of what I believe. So I really want to get in tonight your thoughts and how we can use that to affect our own reality.
Yeah, I tell you, the universe is such complex in a very simple way. If we just look behind the curtain a little bit, first of all, we're going to like it. And for the second, we're going to understand a lot more than what we think we do. And yeah, let's just start talking a little bit about this universe. You know, the people that made this movie, The Matrix, they knew something. And at least the guys that wrote the script for it. Because I was watching a video on YouTube by Dr. James Gates. He's a theoretical physicist, about in his 60s or so, and he spent his whole life trying to figure out the universe through quantum mechanics. And he made this statement on the video that just totally blew me right off the chair. And he says, I have gotten to this point in my life, he says, and I never thought it would get here. And that is that it looks like I'm living in the Matrix. And that came from a theoretical physicist.
I've heard people like Elon Musk, you know, say they believe we might live in a simulated reality. I've heard other big names, but when you hear a theoretical physicist say it, and they believe there's evidence towards it, that's very interesting thought. You know, you talk about the code of the universe. You totally the Matrix. You know, when you see the movie, they have like the coding that he sees like running down. What is this code of the universe?
Yeah, and in fact, I think after the break here, we'll do this mind experiment with the Mastermind. And in order to really get that to work well, it really helps to understand why it will work.
Exactly.
And also how and why. And I like to explain a little bit about that because this Dr. James Gates, he says that he has discovered a form of computer code embedded in the equations of supersymmetry that describes fundamental particles. You know, atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons, and omegons, and all the way down to nothing. And we are made of those particles. So if there are computer code in the fabric of space, why is that so hard to believe? Because DNA have computer code in it.
I love when they say junk DNA too, because it's like there's something there. You just don't understand it. You call it junk, but there's something there. I swear one day we'll find a coding or a message within our own DNA.
Yeah, I've seen how that works somewhat. And all organic material have DNA. DNA, they have those particles also, electrons and protons and so on in it. And those particles, it is in the computer code, and those particles is in us. And you know what that means? Someone or something with consciousness created the fabric of space on the basis of that computer code. And we're living and existing in it. You see, James Gates, he found that this computer code, these strings of ones and zeros were actually representing ones and zeros, I think is what he says.
Right.
It's a special kind of combination of computer code that was invented back in the 1940s by a scientist. I think his name was Claude Shannon. And that they find this deep.
So it matches that same kind of code?
Yes, it does.
So if he didn't invent it, then in a way he discovered it.
He discovered it. Actually, that I don't know if he invented it or discovered it.
Well, in the books, in the books he invented it, but in the larger concept of it is if this is the coding of the universe, in a way he discovered it.
Yeah.
He discovered the language, at least.
I think you got it. I think you got it because it's the code or the language of the universe, and he discovered it. I think you're right there. That makes sense to me.
So that to me, the idea of the universal consciousness, for what I understand it, maybe you can clarify it, but it's like we are all one consciousness expressing itself in unlimited forms.
Yeah. And these codes that he said that he found in this string theory, which is probably as close as you can get to the theory of everything, he says that is too symmetrical to be random. It can't be random because it's too symmetrical, and that means intelligence behind it. So if that's the case, we are in a self-aware, mind-created, universal matrix.
There was a book I read as a kid. It was called, as a kid, I'd say a teenager, called The Self-Aware Universe.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Mick Goswami or something like that wrote it. And I think that's where I just like that. This is exactly what I've been thinking of all my life as a kid, what I picture that our universe is.
Yeah, and if we think about that, now we know that we are connected to this universal matrix. If we're connected to it, we should also be able to affect it in certain ways. And quantum physics also tells us we live in a mind-created universe. Which mind? Well, is it ours or is it somebody else's mind?
Are we all living in somebody's bad dream or good dream?
Yeah, I felt like that sometimes.
Right.
I woke up from some of them. But if we have this universal consciousness all around us, and we are part of that, kind of like an offshoot off of that, with an individualized spark of life that we call maybe our soul or our consciousness, that we are embedded into this computer program for the purpose of having physical experiences. Because the universal consciousness or the program itself doesn't have a physical body, so it cannot have physical experiences. But it can get it through us. So it learns and grows. And I know some people want to call this God. Okay, so God learns and grows with us.
You remember the movie or the story itself, but they made a movie of it, I think in the 70s. And I saw the rerun or TV movie of the day I won. So babysitter wasn't paying attention. I watched a movie called Sybil.
Yeah.
And this is where I started formulating this in my head. This movie kind of scarred me because I remember her mom locked her in a cabinet in total darkness for hours. And she developed, besides torturing her, she developed these multiple personalities. And to me, I started, what I've always thought of or compared it to is like when you have a dream, you have other people in your dream. Maybe people you know or people you don't, but there's people there interacting with you, but it's your dream. All those people are you.
Yeah, there you go.
I swear, I find when consciousness is isolated, it wants to split. It wants to create a reality. That's what we do in our dreams. That's what Sybil did when she was disconnected. Am I hitting on the right idea of what universal consciousness is?
Yeah, you're on the trail of it here. Because if we are in a mind-created universe, that means our mind creates everything around us. So with other words, if our mind creates it, there really is nothing physical there. It is all created in our mind and projected outwards through the tools of the mind, which is the brain and the eyes and the fingers, so we can have sensations of solid tables and stuff. And that one is the one that is so hard to wrap our heads around, that there is nothing outside of us except for what we have created in our mind. That one is a tough one. But I do have a parallel for you, which will probably lead you closer to being able to accept it. And that is that, I know some people are going to get tired of hearing this, but it is so good for the ones that hasn't heard it that I'm going to say it again. I'm a hypnotist. If I put you in a soft chair and talk to you for 15 minutes and told you that when you wake up, you will see an elephant standing next to you in the room. If I did my job right and I snap my finger and bring you back, you are going to see that elephant standing next to your chair. You can reach out and you can touch the snout of the elephant and you can feel the rough texture of the skin. You can hear him breathing. You see him. You can smell him. That is what hypnosis can do. And you see the elephant, but I don't, because there is no elephant there.
Right. It's just in your mind.
yeah, what happened to your real world?
It's been augmented.
What is the difference between what you create every day, 24/7, and that elephant created for that moment? There is no difference in your mind because you can see the doggone thing. It's standing right there.
Well, our brain translates everything we're seeing and touching and feeling. I mean, everything has to be everything has to be flipped back right side up because it's being flipped backwards in our brain. And we're only seeing what our perspective can see in the electromagnetic realm that we're able to perceive.
Absolutely. So now when we know that the mind can do these things, then let's turn inward and say, what do we want to create? Maybe we want to create something different than what we have in our life. Maybe we're going through a hard time or something is really miserable. And we keep thinking about that miserable thing all the time. Well, that's where the problem is. You're going to have what you spend your majority of thinking, and what is in your subconscious mind programs, that is what you're going to have in your life, because that is what is projected outwards. It is okay to understand the problem, but once you understand it, don't think much about it anymore. Bury yourself in the problem-solving process. And that's what we'll do in the second half of this.
Why not think too much about it?
Yeah, because it is on your mind, and the mind creates everything outside of you. So now it's going to embed what you're thinking about into what you see around you. And this is neuroscience. This is not just me saying that. This is they found what people are thinking about. That is what will happen. Quantum physics actually has some experiments like this too that actually prove that, the mind can create some very tangible things. In fact, repair the past if you want to go really far out there.
Well, you get in the idea, and there's a lot of rabbit holes I want to go down tonight because there's a lot of concepts. I know I think we share is like the idea too, when you get into quantum physics, is of parallel universes or Schrodinger's cat, in a state of being dead and alive at the same time in the box, because we don't know until we perceive it. What the results of that experiment, people are familiar with that. Go look up Schrodinger's cat. But it's a simple thought experiment to the idea of, does our perception of an event make it now solidified in reality?
Exactly. And I heard a quantum physicist say in a lecture one time, or maybe I read it in his paper, he said that most of the universe does not even exist, because it wouldn't exist until it is observed, interacted with, or thought of.
You compare it, people say a matrix, and I've seen some people's comment like, I don't live in a machine. I don't know if it's a machine we live in. We picture our mechanized machines and computers and all that stuff. This is something beyond that, I believe, but it is some kind of simulation. But that quantum effect reminds me of what happens in a video game. If you're in a video game and you're walking around a certain open field or whatever, the next over the hill part, if no other characters there, no other online player, that's all that memory for that game is compressed down. It doesn't open up that area of that map until a person from the game, a real person, walks into it, and then the computer opens it up, and then you have to share that with other people that are online. We're creating these virtual realities now.
Yeah, we are. And that's what's so tricky, because if we think of misery all the time, that's what we're going to have. If we turn around and say, I understand the misery, but some good stuff is coming out of that one, and then think about the good stuff that can happen from it and start developing a picture of what is in the future. When it comes to the mastermind, this is something that, let me first give you a definition of what I have found, and that is that when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind that has the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. Wow. So if 1,000 people is listening to your show tonight,
I hope
that means that we have 1,000 times 1,000. That means that we have the total combined mind power of 1,000,000 minds, and that is powerful, because once you add intention, vivid, colorful images and pictures, emotion, gratitude for having something already, even though we may not yet, and also add love to it. That is no longer just thoughts. This is an energy that can move things within the physical arena.
Well, you know, we would talk. We and you were talking on the phone before the show, you know, because you know, this is Art Bell used to do the mass consciousness experiments, and he had 16 million to 20 million listeners a night, and that's that you multiply that. I don't care, forget it. It's an astronomical number of minds there working for a goal, and it was some powerful stuff that scared him.
I did, and I can see why. Because if you have say 20 million listeners, multiply that by 20 million, I'm running out of zeros. I can't even picture it, you know?
It's a powerful thing. And you have to wonder if that is known. Okay, there's all these secret societies and, you know, you could talk about the New World Order. Well, they all control the media. They are trying to shape our minds every day. Well, if they know that there's a power behind mass consciousness, well, even more reason to try to shape our minds and what we think, because it will affect the reality.
Absolutely. And the thing about it, he had 20 million listeners when he did this experiment over Texas, which I can explain in the next segment. But we don't need 20 million people to actually get a good effect from it. We actually last fall, myself and Nori Love and a few of my friends and thousands of other people in churches and groups around the country, we turned a hurricane coming up along the Cuban coast at a Category 4, heading straight for Florida. During the 90 miles from Cuba to Florida, it fizzled out to below a Category 1. It became just a tropical storm.
But the reverse, if somehow you got your intent wrong, or you didn't do it right, you could send a storm hurtling into somewhere else that you don't want it to go. You know,
that's right.
That's the power of it. And, you know, it's just like doing a spell, you know, for people who practice magic, you know, or, you know, incantations. And, you know, if they do something wrong, it might come back to bite them, or, you know, especially if they're trying to do something negative. I mean, this could be used for negative, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it could. But the thing about it is that it can very easily also backfire on the one that is doing it.
Yeah.
So, it comes back.
It's a price to be paid for doing it. Well, again, when we get one of the things I've always thought too, we talk about, you know, to be able to change reality. How is that possible for some people? The idea of parallel universes, how they play into this.
Well, there is a separation of vibration, so that is something that is alive and well. And just as a novelty, have you ever walked in somewhere with your hands full of groceries and you got your car keys in one of the hand, you put the car keys down and you walk and put the groceries away and turn around and the car keys are gone?
Oh, yeah.
Similar things like that. And then a few hours later, it's right there where you left it.
Right. Yeah. And I hear this story I'm a paranormal investigator, and I hear this story from clients.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one just recently is like, I know I took out the roast. I left, I came back, the roast was back in the fridge, and there was the fish was pulled out. I'm like, well, maybe you forgot. She's like, no, I saw the roast on the counter. I was getting ready for that. It was not, I did not. And I know that feeling. It's happened to me. And, right. Go ahead.
That happens to me several times a week here.
Right.
Some of these parallel universes are very close to us. Well, they are so similar, there may be small variances.
Right, exactly. And who's to say we're not flipping in and out of different ones through our day?
And it happens by the way we think.
Right. So that's what I was wondering, is like by our thoughts, like I'm in a good mood, so I'm going to slip into this universe. It's just slightly different, but it has a little bit better vibe right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and we've had stories on the World Wide Web of Weird. I did a special I did for our Patreon thing. I did about time slips and that, but I brought up about the parallel universes of like a woman waking up and swearing she had a fiance or husband that was with her all these years, and now he's not and doesn't know her. And she woke up in like a little bit different world. It was more than just slightly changed.
Yeah, I would say.
You know, and then the people who just disappear.
Yeah.
You know, we have the 411 cases.
I have done a little digging in the past, and both that and time travel. And I tell you, I found that in about 1975, it was a big asteroid that hit Earth and pretty much destroyed all life.
What year?
1975. And about that time, and when that happened in a parallel universe, and it is not in ours. And that's why I have been spending quite a bit of time designing my future before I have to live it, because I know what I want, and I put those things into the future, and I keep feeding it.
Well, that's my question. If we are we can slip out of these parallel universes, or just like one little tiny difference we don't notice between them. That's how, I mean, if there's parallel universes, and if it's infinite and it's every possibility, then there's got to be so many universes that are just one tiny little difference. You wouldn't know the difference.
And there is. So it's all placed in this soup of creation. Some people call the Akashic records, because if you ever thought of it, done it, or want to do it, it is, even when you think about something, it is placed into the soup of creation as a potential for reality, physical reality. So later on, if you think of it again, you give it a little more power. Now you give it a low form of life. So you can actually go back and forward and create those realities. I guess that probably opened up a can of worms here when I said to go back and you can change things. But,
so it's time travel. I mean, just literally time travel.
Yeah. In the back of my book about spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, I explain how to do that. And that could get interesting. I know people have experimented with it, and I'm getting some neat stories back.
Well, one of my and yes, I know it's one of Art Bell's favorite movies, but it was one of my favorite movies too. As a kid, now it's like, wow, why did I like this? I liked it because a guy could vision himself and make himself go back in time, is somewhere in time.
Yeah.
And Christopher Reeves, he does the whole, dresses in the clothes and makes sure everything in his surroundings is of that time period he wants to go to, and visualizes it and makes himself go there, and there's something with that as a kid fascinated me, that idea that you could, I've always been fascinated by time travel, but the idea that you didn't need a machine, you didn't need anything but your own mind to send you back in time.
Yeah, you really don't need the machine. But that is the machine. I have a small electronics device that I've experimented with. And
really?
I've had some strange experiences. But I'm finding out it's a mind-matter interface. And when the mind gets insightful enough to understand what I am, what the universe is, and also start to the point where you can feel it, the emotion of it, and the knowledge of it. You don't need the machine anymore. You can do it with your mind. It takes a little bit of practice.
I've heard of these kind of machines that people talked about using. I remember some people being on Art Bell and sending him one. But yeah, the whole point was to teach you how to do it yourself.
Yeah, and that is the machine that I have.
Really?
The one that Art Bell got, yeah.
What is it called? Because I remember it, but I don't remember what it's called. Does it have a name?
For those of you that is interested in this, first of all, you can read about it in the back of my book, one of the last sections, and also Stephen Gibbs. You can find him on the internet.
I remember the name now. Yeah,
Stephen Gibbs, and he'll make these machines. And
that's right. He would make them for people. I remember this now. Yeah, that's just fascinating to me, because I've been fascinated with people who have these time slip experiences. People that walk into a town and they interact with people and all that, and they find out the town's been gone for 150 years or whatever. Incidences like that, these time slips people have where they slip back into time. And then we talk about people that go missing and never to be found. It's like, did they slip somewhere back in time? Something as a kid, all through my life, is just fascinating me, the idea that we could just slip into another time, either by thought or by accident of some kind of dimensional shift we don't understand. But to go back and actually change something you've already done, to me, that just, there's so many paradoxes involved with that. But if you look at the parallel universe theory, then I've always thought if you went back, you'd be changing something in that would be a parallel timeline now from you.
Well, you're exactly right, because let's say that there is something in the past that you screwed up so bad you want to change it. You want to have a do-over. Well, okay, there is a way to do that. But what you are doing, you are actually not changing the present timeline, because that is all locked in.
It's
that is already. You go back to slightly before when you did that screwy thing that you wish you didn't. And then you put yourself in a situation where you remember what you did before that, and then decide in your mind that I know what I did in this timeline, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a different decision.
So you're setting off another version of you on a different timeline where you didn't make that decision.
Starting out a new timeline from there on. And the trick is that by the time you have started that new timeline, avoiding that stupid thing you did, chances are you will never know it, because that will end up in a different timeline which you no longer have any knowledge of.
Where you're saying, so you've done some stupid stuff you don't even know you did because you went back and changed it, which changed it. Because that's the crux, that's the paradox. Because let's say you you got really drunk and danced naked on a table and sang La Bamba or something. You did something really stupid, you regret, you want to go back, you go back and change it. But the problem is that once you change it, now you've changed the timeline where you did it, where you would have to decide to go back. So then you wouldn't go back. Why would you go back? You never did it. It's the endless circle.
The thing, if you start a new timeline, you may be faced with the same situation, but you have already decided that you're going to do a different decision than the one you did in the other timeline. So now the question is, will you actually do that different decision, or will you do the same thing over again? You got to stay on course and not get...
Well, you can think of it this way, is you send another alternate version of you to make the right decision on a new path, on a new timeline. And maybe that has ripple effects that will affect your timeline, where you're still living with the stupid thing you did, but it starts to make it less of a factor.
That could also be. Yeah. That still could be a new timeline where you still have the stupid thing, but it doesn't affect you so much.
True. I could think of a number of stupid things I'd want to change, but what I've always thought about time travel, so I got a time machine. I went back to my own past. I wouldn't want to touch a thing because I wouldn't want to risk affecting being a father, my timeline, and screwing up and not having my children. So all the mistakes I made, all the roads I chose, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with it because I got my children. I wouldn't want to change a single thing because of that.
That's a good choice, because chances are in a different timeline, things may be different.
But my brain thinks about that, all the different scenarios. I'm weird like that. I think about how things could have gone different this way. I don't know why I fixate on these things sometimes. Sometimes I wonder if I am peering into other timelines.
Boy, it gets complicated when you get into these things. And that's why I suggest everybody out there just find some books on quantum mechanics and start reading it, because it opens your mind up to things that you previously thought were totally impossible.
Well, back to the A part thing, I mean, just on the simplest level, if we are existing in a multi-dimensional form where we think we're in this one parallel universe, we're on this one timeline, but really we're slipping in and out of different ones that are just so close to each other, but with little differences. In this timeline, I left my keys on the table, but just 1% difference is I didn't leave the keys on the table. I left them over there. And the spirits can use that to flip the reality back and forth to move an object.
Yeah. They're very tricky. Sometimes it looks so similar that you would never know the difference.
On the realm of where we go when we die, it's an interesting idea too. Because, I mean, when we die, do we just slip into another reality that's still us, but in that reality we didn't die?
Yeah, and I mean, even religion recognized that there are more than one existence, because I mean the Christians, they want to go to heaven, and of course they're really scared of this other place, the one down in the basement where they got the furnace. But even the Vikings wanted to go to Valhalla and fight and drink and tell dirty jokes the rest of their eternity. So religions even know that there is another reality. Why are we questioning when physics tell us that there is? Because look at it from one angle only. There is thousands and thousands of pictures of ghosts. And face show up on the film, but there were nothing there before. Then when you took the picture, you couldn't see anything, but when you developed the film, it's right there.
Right.
Where do those pictures come from? The images come from? They come from another reality.
That's interacting with ours.
Yeah, they can see us more than we can see them. It's also shadow people, in the corner of an eye.
Well, I've had a shadow person right in front of my eye. I've had a whole shadow person experience when I was 17, 18 years old that tormented me to the point for 4 months where I almost lost my mind. It got me to why I want to be a paranormal investigator, to help other people understand that these things are real. They rarely can hurt you, but this thing did try to hurt me. And it always makes me wonder if all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, people that are suddenly snapping, the experience I had with a shadow person, it wanted me to hurt people or hurt myself. It was a very negative. So every time I always wonder, are there other people being affected by the same thing I was affected, and they didn't fight back?
Yeah.
It's a scary, very scary thought. I don't. We had a news segment at the beginning of the show where we show a woman who just walks up and stabs a kid in the face, and you're right. And the question is why are we having this kind of like mental psychosis in society? Like I'm in a timeline right now, Aage, where I feel that there is some kind of mental breakdown happening.
Yeah, and not all of that is our doing.
Right.
Some of it is generated or instituted by programs put in place decades ago by some of the Alphabet Soup and other organizations within it that for their own agenda want to create conflict. And boy, I really don't want to go down that road because it gets really dark down there.
It is a dark road. I used to obsess about it. My 20s, where we were going and all that. And then I kind of let go of it. But then I kind of came back to it a little bit once I had children, because I'm a little scared for their future and what's going on in society. And, my biggest fear is what's happening with all the electromagnetic, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I have a cell phone and everything. I'm totally bombarding myself with electromagnetic radiation. But are we as another Art Bell reference, are we the frog being slowly cooked in a boiling water as they're upping the electromagnetic frequencies around us? And is it affecting people?
Yeah, chances are we are.
That's what scares me. And you talk about moving timelines. I wonder, like you talked about 1975, that there in one timeline we got hit by an asteroid. Well, we had all the doomsday sayers for 2012. Is there a timeline where 2012 happened, but we got out of it? And this time
it probably was.
Well, I want to get out of this timeline with the crazy people.
Yeah.
What do we got to do to get out of that is a question, but maybe we'll save that question for later. We got about 15 minutes before the break. I do want to give you enough time more to get into what we're going to be doing tonight with this this consciousness experiment, I guess we could call it.
Well, maybe we could. Do you think we should 15 minutes? May not be time enough to do all of it, but I could explain about it. Why?
Get us ready.
Why, and then we can start the experiment itself right after the break.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
So what is this that we're going to try to do tonight?
Well, first of all, I did give you the definition that I've come up with for the mastermind. When the two or more minds are united in harmony, then a lot of good things can happen because you magnify the mind power, not the brain power, but the mind power of everybody involved. And I know some people will say, okay, yeah, sure, that's nice, but how do we know that it has these phenomenal effects? Let me give you an example. And we mentioned Art Bell before, and I'm gonna do because there may be some people that haven't heard this one, because I'm gonna tell them what happened over Texas.
Right.
One night, I think it was in the mid 1990s, there had been drought in Texas for about 4 months or so, no rain anywhere. Towns were running out of water, cattle was dying everywhere, and the state was drying up. And Art Bell went on the air and he said, there is a crisis in Texas. He says, we need to create rain over there. And I'm paraphrasing now, of course. But he said, let's all visualize rain over Texas. I was listening that night and I participated, and we all did that. Starting in the morning that next day and the rest of the day and several days afterward, there were thunderstorms and rain all over Texas. And the weather forecasters came out and said, gosh, we don't know how did this happen, because there were no moisture in any of the computer models that could create this rain. We don't understand how it happened. Well, I understand.
Right.
The mastermind of everybody involved visualizing rain over Texas altered the matrix. The laws of physics were altered to include moisture in it that could create the rain.
Enough people shared in the reality that would make that the reality, basically.
Absolutely. And this goes also, that was millions of people. But then again, it can be done with just a few people. I saw a video from China where there was a person that was there with cancer. There was cancer of the bladder. That's what it was. And there were about 4 or 5 people standing around there, healers, I guess. And they chanted, "It is done. It is done. It is done." And we can see a split screen. On the left side, we could see the picture of the cancer blob in there. That was the cancer. And on the right side was actually the real picture of the cancer. And they took them 3 minutes to shrink a cancer tube from about the size of a fist down to nothing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you don't hear this in the mainstream media. The medical industry, it's a $1 billion industry for cancer. It's the biggest industry in the medical field. So
Absolutely.
if they could easily cure cancer that way, they would lose all their money.
Absolutely. You'll never hear about that. And in fact, in China, they allow this to happen. They don't talk a lot about it because, science is their God, of course, and that is, it's okay. They're probably pretty close as long as they go far enough with it. I don't think they do yet, but they had these people standing around the bed doing this. They understood that their unity of mind created a mastermind that shrunk the tumor into nothing. And we are going to do the same thing here in about 15, 20 minutes on a different scale. We're going to try to change the path of a hurricane that is coming up from around the Caribbean. And all forecasts says that it could probably hit northern Florida.
Yeah.
So we're going to see if we can change that so that we want it to turn right and go back into the Atlantic and fizzle out.
Would it help? Would it help if we had like while we're doing this, like a visualization thing up on us? Because for the people watching the webcast, like a visualization, like a radar shot of the hurricane.
That could probably be all right. Let me see, because if they're looking at that, they are looking at what is. I think we want them to be visualizing. I'm going to guide them through this so you can see the visual images of what I'll create when I have it turn right and go back into the Atlantic.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I think if they look at the picture, that becomes permanent in their mind.
So we don't want to look at that. We don't want to look at that.
I don't think so.
Okay, so don't go look it up and visualize that, people. We don't want to. We want to picture clear waters, clear skies there, basically.
Yeah, we want to be able to actually be able to turn it a little bit more than it is right now, and then there is really no way that they can avoid rain in Florida. It's going to rain a lot.
Rain's fine. Hurricane with 285-mile-per-hour winds, not fine. Yeah, so we at least want to take it down several notches. That's what we want to try to do. It's the power of it. You know, what I've always thought, and I know I have friends that would laugh at me because I have a couple friends that are both illusionists, and they're totally, really good at it. But I've always said, some of these really good illusionists, like some of them that are, doing some crazy stuff. I'm like, what if somebody discovered the real secret to magic was you just have to convince enough people that you're such a good magician, you could do anything. And if you got a whole crowd of people watching you, you tell them you're going to make this card disappear. And they all expect that because when a magician says, I'm going to do that, the result is always that. Well, you don't need a trick or anything. You just remove the blanket and the car's gone because the reality was shared. Everybody expected that outcome.
Yeah, that's amazing. But then again, there was, I think it was Henning that said, most of what you see, he says, are tricks.
Oh, yeah,
but
I know that.
Once in a while, somebody come along that is the real thing.
That's what I mean. Would we even know the difference?
We probably wouldn't.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I was a big fan of Lord of Illusion. I had Scott Bakula in it, but it was forgetting the author who wrote the story that they made the movie out of. But Lord of Illusion, the magicians who were really doing magic, but people thought they were he was just a magician, Yeah. And like I said, he was using spells in that, but the idea that the power of the mind, if you convince enough people of an outcome, it's Schrodinger's cat, the car, or you put the magic trick could be the cat in the box. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make this cat disappear. And you've seen me make all this other stuff disappear, so the expectation's there.
There may be more to it too, because I think it was Henning that actually spent about 2 months a year in Himalaya with somebody he's learning from. So I think there may be some more involved.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the power of the mind, what it can do, a lot of people scoff, like, oh, whatever, it's all illusion, it's all tricks. But like I said, there might be some people that it's real. You wouldn't know, because there's really good illusionists that make you think, just because they can make it a trick doesn't mean this person's doing a trick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, there's people who claim they can make stuff materialize out of thin air over the years. And some people have been proven to be hoax, but there's others that have not.
Well, when you achieve something called city consciousness, that means that you are all mind and you no longer have any need for a physical body. You just use it basically for interaction so that people will understand you better and be able to at least communicate with you. And Baba G, there's a movie footage from him in India.
That's it, Baba G. Yes, I know. Yes, I remember that one.
Yeah, walking through a crowd. He closed his fist and he opened it, and there were coins and diamonds, and some of them were red, looked like, in color, falling out of his hand. He closed it again. More coins would flow out of the hand. He closed it again. And he kept doing this as he walked through the crowd. And he was throwing coins on the ground in front of these poor people. And he had his sleeves rolled up. There were nothing there that could have brought it down. And they had asked him about this later on, but I don't remember what he said. But he said something to the fact that it doesn't matter, because if you don't understand, then you wouldn't understand the answer or something like that. He had said. Right.
Well, I don't know what your thoughts are. He has his critics and all that. And I don't know what I still think of him all these years. But I was watching a live presentation he was doing with Uri Geller. And he was having people live on TV, participate. And with at one point, one part of the experiment was bending a spoon, and my spoon bent. And the other part was, and I have this habit of killing watches pretty quickly. I had a friend that was even more quicker. He could hold your watch and be dead. Mine is like in a couple days. If I have a watch, the battery dies. And so I had a number of dead watches, and he's like, the part of the live thing was like, hold your dead watch, everybody, live on TV. And sure enough, my watch started ticking away. Dead watch been dead for more than a year. And so my dad was such a huge critic of Uri Geller. He's a scientist kind of guy, and he always bring up the Johnny Carson episode. And I always wondered if Uri Geller's power is of his belief and the belief of those around him, a combined shared thing, expectation I was talking about. When he was on Johnny Carson's a complete skeptic. He's a magician. He knows you can trick all this stuff. Could Johnny Carson's skepticism played a role into stopping him from being able to do what he needed to do on that show?
Could be.
It's we're our own beliefs, but how are they interact? How we interact with others and their beliefs.
Yeah, it could very well be that him and the people in the audience, because they knew that Johnny was a skeptic. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, everybody else he had on this show that could do tricks, he always busted them out. So here we go again with the expectation. We're like, well, this guy's going to get totally busted out. So everybody got millions of viewers watching Uri Geller, waiting for him to totally flop on Johnny Carson, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and not everybody is successful all the time.
Another analogy I like to use is and I brought it up in the show, is the Warner Brothers dead frog. It would, it looks like a dead frog in front of everybody else. When everybody else leaves, it's dancing and singing for the guy, and then he goes to try to show people and it's a dead frog. That's kind of how I've always compared the paranormal and these experiences. It's like you put it up in front of the most skeptical minds, and it's a dead frog again.
Yeah, and that's what I experienced too. In 2003, BBC Television came over to do a TV documentary on time travel. And they had Michio Kaku on, and
who I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, and also Green and myself. I was demonstrating this electronic device on this TV documentary that, in fact, was showed to 1 billion people afterwards in all of the, pretty much all of the English-speaking world. And I demonstrated this, and they wanted to see something, and I tried to explain to them that, there's so many people here. It's hard to get my mind into the exact vibration that I need, lower it down into the bottom of the alpha range where I needed it. And they was just so disappointed. It doesn't work every time.
Especially if you have a bunch of perceptions that are now looking upon it, their eyes, their perception on you, that they don't believe it. It's not going to work. And you're fighting against that will.
In fact, when it comes to time travel, I think I'm one of the few people that I know that actually have photographic evidence of it.
Really?
If you go to one of my websites, it's Aage-Nost.com, and go to the picture gallery, go to page 8, and scroll down about halfway. There's 2 kind of greenish pictures next to each other. That explains, the text on it explains how I was able to get 2 totally different nature photos taken at the same time, but they are different.
So it's like you actually affected reality by traveling back in time.
Yes, I did. And also I ended up in a parallel timeline where, because I was 1 minute apart. I took, I guess we got a minute and a half left here.
Yeah.
So I can explain this.
Yeah, go.
That's I read foreign newspapers and stuff like that every night, just about. And there's one newspaper in Europe, in Norway, that I watch every so often because they have a video camera showing a part of the street, which I was very familiar because I used to go there. And I took a screenshot of it. And later, I wanted to do a mind experiment to go back to that exact time and take another screenshot. Okay, I did. I missed it by about a minute. But what we see in those 2 pictures is that one of them, there's been a heavy rain because the light is reflecting off the road, and there is no leaves on the trees.
So it's different.
The next picture, a minute apart, it is totally dry. And there is leaves on the tree. And that doesn't happen in about a minute and 5 seconds.
No, not at all.
So, and if I have invited anybody to check it out, I have hard photos of this, of them check out the pixels, because I did not alter any of this. Because if anybody know me, they know that I learned computers from the village idiot. And he's smarter than I am.
Rob's got it pulled up, the webpage. We'll maybe take a look at that after the commercial break, but we are going to go to our commercial break. When we come back with our guest, Aage Nost, we're going to try this Mastermind experiment. See if we can change the course of the hurricane, because it needs to be changed for Rob here down in St. Augustine, Florida. We got to change that course, Rob. But we will be back with Aage Nost, and we will open up the phone lines for you guys to call in. Now, during the experiment, I'll probably not take a call, but call in, hold on until we call upon you. All right, guys, we'll be back with this short commercial break.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Knights of the road, here's your stallion. The car for freedom. The car for hot excitement. The car for a man who is alone against the elements.
Matsu Thunder.
The pride is back. It's the power of a compact.
It looks small, but it's so big.
Fuel injected.
Inject me.
My Matsu Thunder. On the toll road of life, you have to pay to prove you can. Live the emotion of an individual. The awesome power of nature distilled into one vehicle. Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
The Matsu Thunder.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch them.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Otis.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Hi, Jill. What are you making?
I'm making average noodles for my kids.
What are they like?
They're distinctly average. This one is broccoli flavor.
That is very average. I could barely raise any extreme enthusiasm for those whatsoever.
You should try their other flavors like carrot, plain fish, and potato.
Are they quick to prepare?
Compared to other noodles, you mean?
Yes.
They're pretty average, actually.
Well, I might just possibly go and maybe buy some sometime in a bit, perhaps.
Yes. I'm sure your whole family will be mildly interested in average noodles.
Average noodles, they're okay, just nothing special.
Hi, Jill! What are you making? I'm making super noodles. For your kids? Stuff that. For me. What flavour are they? They're magnificent mild curry. Oh, they are super! Wait till you try their other flavours, like sudden fried chicken, barbecue beef, and cheese and ham. Wow, Jill, this has changed my life! Now I really appreciate the meaning of the word super as an adjective. Mummy, can we have some? Yes! In fact, I've brought the whole state round for tea! Yeah!
Fabulous super noodles, not named super for nothing.
The first
time was only a warning. Damien, Omen 2. Now showing at the Leicester Square Theatre. Certificate X. Available in paperback from Futura Books.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is your last chance. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Aage Nost. We're talking all things universal consciousness, parallel universes, time travel, all my favorite topics. And of course, we're going to try this Mastermind consciousness experiment tonight to try to move the path of Dorian, the hurricane that's happening right now, away from Florida, away from our co-host Rob Autry in St. Augustine, Florida. We want to move it away, so we're gonna follow Augie's guide here on how we're gonna do this. I used to love it when Art Bell would decide to let's have a mass conscious experiment night. He didn't do it often. He was afraid of its power. When you had 20 million listeners and you're messing with mass consciousness, I would be too. You have to respect that kind of power that the consciousness can have if you really believe in it, and I do. You can call in tonight. Our phone lines will be open. We have two lines open tonight, 219-230-4444, or you can call in on Skype ID Jblandoo. That's Jblandoo. Call in. Tell us about your experiences. Do you believe you live in a matrix? Tell us. Have you had an experience of deja vu? Those things, you remember in the Matrix where they see the cat and they're like, he's like, oh, deja vu. They're like, no, something there. Is that the Matrix glitching? I wonder. All right, let's go ahead and get back to our guest. You still there with me, Aage?
Oh, yes, here I am. Yeah, so let's do this thing, huh?
Yeah, so what are we going to be doing tonight? How's this going to work with the audience?
Okay, well, let's first of all, I got to say, though, that, we're not the only ones doing this. There are other people, probably hundreds of thousands of people that have prayer meetings and sit in families, and they trying to, in their own way, understand what's going on and maybe turn it out to sea or have it fizzle out. They're thinking about the hurricane doing that. So we're not the only one doing, but we are going to do our part. And this is something that is very often done by families and church groups, and can be done a lot more effectively probably if they understand the science behind it, which we have talked a little bit about. And also, what we got to remember, the mastermind is a joining of minds. Try not to separate ourselves in the middle of thinking of the hurricane turning to the right and just kind of dissipating so you can see the the water underneath it and so on. Try not to think about the what should we call it? Maybe the house payment that is overdue, and things like that.
daily stuff.
So, but we have to have a clear goal first, and that is to turn the hurricane to the right avoid Florida and have it go into the Atlantic. And this is what we're going to unite our minds on. And we should do that without distractions. And then we share our thoughts. Think about what I will be talking us through this. So let's just share our thoughts with what you hear. And also, if you're driving a car when we're doing this, turn the radio off or turn the phone off.
Should they pull over?
Yeah, they could do that, but you know, you can also.
I don't want to be
listen
causing any accidents.
Yeah. So because you may not have totally the same presence of mind once you start lowering your brain by patting down way down into the alpha range. So this is kind of like a meditation session in a way, in something like that. When you have a group, a mastermind group, 5 to 7 people for a small group is an ideal number. And anytime you get up into the 20s or more, then just go for the big number because it multiplies the bigger it gets. And also, if there are powerful minds within it, very spiritual minds, meditators, and people that is good at visualization, they will magnify it even a lot more.
I'm sure we got some people that are really good at visualization in our chat room. I'm positive of that. So it might have some powerful minds there.
I'm sure of that. And I'm sure most of us listening here or will be listening also keep in mind. Let's say that tomorrow you go and listen to this recording. But by going through the motions and sitting there and visualizing it tomorrow, you will be participating tonight. I'll explain that one in about 45 seconds.
Boggle my mind.
Because where does this images, where does the images and the intention of this happen? Where does it go? It doesn't stay in the physical. It goes out of the physical into a higher vibratory external existence, a spiritual existence for some people, and also a quantum existence for others, where time and space does not exist as we know it. Past, present, and future is happening right now. So there is no distance between the past and the future. With other words, we tomorrow can latch on to the thing that we are listening to happened today.
Like give it more energy that way?
Yes, it does.
I see.
People listening to this a month from now can be participating right now.
And it just reverses back the effect in time.
Exactly. If they visualize themselves, even, you know what, a month from now, you know what's going to happen. You know what happened to this hurricane. But visualize turning it, and you help it today. Now, this one is really hard to wrap our heads around.
Yeah, because you're talking about time travel. I mean, basically, people that are in the future are going to see this are going to affect the outcome.
Mental time manipulation. Yes.
Wow. That's an incredible idea that, you know, the past, present, and future are all happening at one time. I've heard many say.
Quantum mechanics has proven that.
Yeah. And that's just a hard concept for people to understand. It's hard to visualize that, the present affecting the past, the future affecting the present, working backwards.
I know, because there is no distance between the past and present and the future when it's just sitting in that soup.
Yeah, good bump soup. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put our minds together and make a soup tonight. A push Hurricane Dorian. I keep saying it wrong. Why do I keep saying it? Dorian, right? Dorian. Hurricane Dorian. We want to get the right hurricane name if we want a mass conscious effect. At least I need to. Hurricane Dorian to go off to the right. We're picturing off to the right.
Let's make hurricane soup.
Hurricane soup. Or turn it into soup. Okay, so you're going to guide us on this.
Okay. So now we kind of know what we want to accomplish. And for those of you that want to participate now, make sure you're just sitting kind of comfortable. I don't know, for me, I cannot meditate laying down, because when my body lays down, that tells my mind laying down, that means going to sleep, and I'm gone.
Exactly.
So sit up and put your feet on the floor or wherever you are. Just listen to my voice for now. We know what a hurricane looks like. Try to picture yourself sitting in space, looking down at the hurricane. Try to see that big white blob with a little hole in the middle. Look at it for a second. And then tell yourself, we will change the path of the hurricane. And then relax. Relax the body, relax your hands. Try to think about nothing, absolutely nothing except my voice. Just think about what I'm saying only. When you're relaxed, you're sitting in that chair on the couch or sitting still, you're relaxed. You're thinking about nothing except my voice. Now you're in space, above the hurricane, looking down at it. You can see the coastline of Florida to your left. You're visualizing the hurricane moving forward very slowly. You can see the eye of the hurricane. It's about 15 to 20 miles across. And then see it moving a little further. And knowing that we want to turn the hurricane to the right. Now visualize the hurricane moving ahead very slowly. As we are talking ourselves through this, you feel very comfortable, you feel good, and you feel like we are going to succeed because I'm going to visualize it turning to the right and going back into the Atlantic, up away from the coast of the United States. The hurricane is moving forward very slowly. You can now slowly start seeing it turn to the right a little bit. You see it moving. It is not parallel going to the coast, but it is out in the ocean and parallel to the coast of Florida. It's moving further ahead, going parallel to the coast up along Florida. Just listen to what I'm saying, my voice. And now you can see it starting turning to the right, going back in to the Atlantic. Visualize the big white blob with a hole in the middle, turning to the right, going into the Atlantic. And it's moving away from the shore. The distance from the hole in the middle of the big white blob to the shore is getting bigger and bigger as it moves. And it is going out to sea. It is moving away from the shoreline, going out to sea. And looking at that, you're going to feel great because we know we have succeeded. It is what we see that will happen. It has already happened. It is that linear time has not caught up yet, but it has happened. It is moving away from the shore, going into the Atlantic and fizzling out. In a little while, you're going to be able to see through the hurricane down and see water underneath it, which tells you you are no longer a hurricane, you're just a storm. It is moving away from the shore and going into the Atlantic, and it is fizzling out. Just take about 10-15 seconds and kind of visualize this one while we are totally quiet. I know that is going to be dead air, but let it go. And it is still moving away from the shore, going into the Atlantic. And this has happened because you thought it into existence. It is now placed in the soup of creation, where everything else from the past, present, and future is placed. Anytime you go back to this, maybe tomorrow in the morning, you can do it in the afternoon, you can go through this visualization again, and you strengthen and participate in the event that we are doing tonight. You help magnifying the effect of dissipating the hurricane. I am looking at it, and I see right now, we have succeeded. It is done.
All right. Toughest part for me was the dead air.
Yeah, I know.
Keep your focus. Don't think about the dead air.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible when you have dead air. That's just...
Especially when you actually have real crickets in your basement. My wife actually went downstairs today and heard a siren of crickets down here. Went and got bug spray. I came home, I'm like, it's really quiet. She's like, yeah, I took care of it. So yeah.
Well, let's look for this thing maybe later tonight or tomorrow
I
morning.
will be. Yes, I'm totally
I definitely
interested.
will be.
Oh yeah, Rob will be very interested. He's got a boarded up house right now.
You're going to see this thing turning because we're going to have some help. We're going to have mom and pops and church groups and everybody else out there praying and visualizing this thing going out to sea. And we don't know who they are, but they participate in their own way and add energy to this movement that we have now created on our end of it.
And let's hope we're not trying to fight some weather manipulation government.
But that doesn't matter. They don't matter. We are more powerful than they are, and they know that. That's why they don't want to know about this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if our government really has delved into the occult and the paranormal and the secret, like, you know, because we know the Russians did, and you know we have, MK Ultra and the Montauk Project and all these scenes that our government's gotten into. If they know this is the truth, then yeah, you would want to keep that secret. You wouldn't want the populace to know these things.
Absolutely, yeah, that's.
But it's there. They can't get rid of it because, I mean, you said prayer. I know there's plenty of Christians in that have prayer groups for things that are of national consequence. You know, they pray for people and they believe it has an effect. And if their belief is me and your opinion, Aage, is if they believe it, then it will have an effect.
Yeah, when 3 or 4 people, 10 people, 20 people get together in prayer, that is a form of mastermind.
Well, you call it mastermind. It reminds me of what they could describe as the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
When there's, 3, it seems like the Bible is trying to make that point as a coming together of minds.
Yeah, that's right.
Or spirit.
And that's why it's so important for us to meditate. Because meditation, for most people, is the gateway to higher consciousness.
I used to meditate a lot when I was in my younger 20s. I am so hard now when I have screaming children, and by the time they're asleep, I am just too tired. I can fall asleep sitting straight up, all that tired. Yeah. But I do believe it was important, and I had some really weird experiences during my times meditating. I did candle meditations, which had some really interesting results of seeing things in the candle flames.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'll tell you, I've done some of that too, and I've had some really strange experiences when there's something special about candles in the room when you meditate.
Well, you can see images. I swear you can see images in the meditation in the candle flame. I saw some stuff that actually disturbed me when I did it. It made me a little bit scared. I don't understand, but it makes you wonder what doorways we can open up too. We do every once in a while on this show, we do ITC Collective Night, which is instrumental transcommunication. And people call in. Speaking of people, you can call in now, 219-230-4444, Skype ID Jblandoo. But we do these spirit boxes and apps, and we've seen evidence that the spirits are able to manipulate the sounds coming out of these devices. And people call in and we get responses. A lot of it we don't hear in real time. Some of it we do. But we just had a couple of these. I was on Heather Wade's show and we did it live on her show, and there's some amazing responses we got on that. And she was doing it. I mean, we play Spirit Box musical chairs. I'll do some here, and then Rob will do it over in Florida. It doesn't matter where we're at. It doesn't matter where the caller's at. But we are all in this communication together.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, people should really take the time to investigate this a little more, because there is some things on YouTube about it. And of course, also in my book about spirituals, I'm going to mention the title of this book because
please do.
Good stuff. Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In there, I got sections. If you go to Amazon, you can see all the subject areas that is in there. And I got a section on how to do mental time travel, and possibly even the physical ones if you are interested in that. And also how to create the future that you want before you have to live it. And you can, what we talked about, changing the past.
I have the pictures up of the pictures you talked about taking of showing the two different parallel universes.
Yeah, it gets.
You can
really
see the
strange.
one looks like a rainy day.
Yeah.
So, but these are the same exact time, same exact day.
1 minute apart.
1 minute apart. And how did it change?
Yeah,
and how does it record from one universe over to the other? Like, you are able to keep the image. We can carry some personal items or personal things too over and mix the two realities?
That's the one that I had problems with in the beginning. And as you see, this was taken in 2008. And I didn't do a thing with it. I just didn't know what to do with it. So it's just recently that I put it up there, actually a little over a year ago. I put it up there for people to see, and I haven't really promoted it much. I'm mentioning it here, but because it's so strange, most people will think, yeah, sure, he manipulated those pictures. Well, I didn't though. If anybody knows me, there's no way I could figure out how to do that. So
I mean, it does look different. You definitely can see. I mean, it's hard for probably people to see. Let me get a closer up look at it. Let me put the whole screen up there. But yeah, you do kind of see one has a little bit more trees and stuff. The other one looks a little bit more like the trees have lost some of their leaves.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen in 1 minute. So
the road looks different. The road is it my imagination, Rob or Jamie, that the road looks like it's bent a little different?
Kind of does.
Yeah, like the road's even a little bit different.
Oh, okay. I haven't looked at that. That's a major difference.
I mean, the camera wouldn't move. It's in the same spot between 1 minute and 1 minute. I can see the two bushes, and there's one that looks a little more, I don't know. That is weird. And you wonder, like I said, can you carry over personal possessions? And maybe that's how aports do happen, is them moving an object from one reality to another. When you talk about spirits and aports, moving an object, or your keys are there and then they're not, and then they're there again a couple days later. Yeah, are we moving in and out of the parallel realities, or where your objects are, or both?
Well, maybe it is both. I know that we can move from one timeline into another one, or even create another one. And I think maybe another timeline could impose itself on us. That's a good question. I haven't thought much about that.
Well, you wonder. I mean, do you think, because you talked about, you got back in the day, you got into conspiracy theories, and you have probably the same, probably more knowledge of some of the stuff that's gone on with our government, but like Project Montauk, they talk about time travel with that, and you get stories like John Teeter, where somebody comes back from the future, says the military's got devices and sending people back in time. How is that rippling through the different timelines? all this different parallel time travel. Because the way I look at it is if there is really time travel, there's no way you could travel back to your same timeline and change something, because then you wouldn't go back and change it because of that paradox. But the idea of parallel universe time travel is you travel back to a timeline that's it looks like your past. It feels like your past.
Absolutely.
But it's slightly different. And anything you change, the moment you change something, actually, it could be your past, but the moment you change something, it breaks off and becomes its own reality. Your original timeline's still there. It doesn't just disappear.
Yeah.
But that is a new reality. And what's the ripple effect of that? And some people have wondered, with all the Mandela effects that people talk about all the time, is this a ripple effect of time travel?
It's probably just a parallel universe that people find themselves in for a short period of time. And I know that has happened to me. And my co-host on one of the radio shows, she had a really strange experience over in Germany that way, where she was definitely in a parallel timeline where the bus that she normally takes to work did not exist. And then day after, then the bus came again. So there's stuff that happens that cannot be explained, and I think we have more access to that. And in my book, I teach people how to use their mind in ways that they normally think is impossible. And that comes through meditation for most people. If we start meditating, we open up that doorway into the subconscious, through the subconscious, into the superconscious mind, and onto the universal mind, where we have access to the source and everything in it, both for knowledge and resources.
I believe it. During the time I was heavily meditating, I had one of those parallel universe kind of experiences, but it was from a dream. It wasn't during the meditation. But I had this I've had a lot of dreams where I see the future and it exactly happens like the dream. But in this one, it was when I was just like, I got engaged to my wife, and I had this good friend, and I know some people are going to judge him, but he didn't really know my wife. And the way he knew me is that I would never get married. The way I was never going to get married. And who is this girl that got him to suddenly say he's going to get married? He didn't trust it. And he tried to throw some other girl at me. He tried to get me to go meet him and his girlfriend with her friend, and just to try to give it out. I knew what he was up to. But the reason I knew what he was up to is because I dreamt about it all before. In the dream, I went out with him, and here's this girl he tries to introduce me to, and I do like her. And we go out, and things happen, and I, screws up everything, and it goes bad. Like, things go bad with my soon-to-be future wife. It was bad. So I had all that dream, like the day before he calls me, just like in the dream. It was like I'm reliving it. And he's like, hey, why don't you come out with, why don't you meet? Hey, we got this friend. And she gets on the phone. And what happened was, in the dream, I remember getting on the phone saying, come out and meet me, blah, blah, blah. It was in the dream. She exactly happens that way. She gets on the phone, starts talking to me. And I said, I'm not interested. And I said, put him back on the phone. Well, blah, blah. I said, I'm not interested. Put my friend back on the phone. Because I had seen it. I'd seen the outcome. I'd seen that this was all going to be bad. I had already had it. So I didn't live that existence. I had that dream. It changed that. Either it changed my timeline or prevented me from going down a timeline I didn't want to go down.
Jason, you got to start meditating again.
Right. I was heavily meditating at that time.
Yeah. And that's happened when people start meditating like you did back then. These kinds of insights is what you get. That's why people need to do it. And people are too busy. I think everybody should meditate for 20 minutes every day. But if you're too busy to do that, you need to meditate for an hour.
Then I'm going to need time travel, because man, for me, the hardest part is just finding that quiet space to do it, and not be too tired by the time I get that quiet space. But I need to do it. I felt like I'm really missing out not meditating like I used to when I was in my 20s. And I keep saying I'm going to get back to it, but you make me think of it when we start talking about parallel universe. I thought about it is when I've had some of these weird experiences at the same time with my wife. Around the same time period, I was having a lot of these experiences. We were coming from a party, and I was riding in a car with her. I was driving because she had too much to drink. Sorry, honey, I'm telling this story. And she said, we're driving down this road, and I suddenly got this deja vu feeling, and I realized I've dreamt about this before. I've dreamt of this on this road. And she's going to throw up. And she suddenly turns to me. She's like, pull over. I'm going to throw up. I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, no, because if I pull over, there's going to be a cop that pulls up behind us, because this is the dream I had. And in the dream, things went bad, really south with the cop. Like, I don't want to pull over. There's going to be a cop. She's like, there's nobody here. It was dead of night, country road, nobody around to see. She's like, I don't care. Pull over. As soon as we pull over and she opens the door and starts puking, woo, lights behind us out of nowhere. Like, where did he come from? But differently, it changed again. This is where I just think about this. This is where it did change. Instead of like this officer put me in handcuffs and things going south, because I had probably a couple. I would have been just over the limit. We'll just say that. I actually had the beer caps in my pocket like an idiot. This time it was like, you can ask my wife. It was like, and of course, yes, she was drunk, but she still says it. It was like the there's no droids here, you know, like this, the Force. Like I totally the way he approached me and the way I conversated with him, I suddenly went into this mode with him, and I'm like, you don't want to see her driver's license? And he's like, no, I'm all right with that. I just want to make sure she's all right. Like, he got really weird. And I'm like, yeah, she's sick. I'm driving for her. Okay. Like, I've had interactions with police officers. I actually later in my life was one for a short time. So it was really odd. And he seemed like he was just going to let us go with not checking our driver's license. What? Not checking our registration. What? You know, I know all these things later on. I'm like, even then I knew it was odd. And then suddenly another cop car pulls up and he suddenly is out of it. Like, he snaps out of it. He's like, I'm going to need to see your driver's license and registration.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get that. And they even give me out and do the drunk test. I should have failed probably, but I passed because I switched gears in that my mindset. I'm like, I am not going down like I did in that dream. I'm getting out of this. I was determined. I like focused my mind. I was like, I saw what was going to happen in that dream, and it's not going to happen here. And I swear to God, I got out of it. I got out of it, and my wife was amazed to this day. She is how we got out of that, and she's like, it was like a Jedi mind trick.
Yeah,
you don't want these droids.
And everybody listening to this is why you need to meditate.
Yeah, I never correlated that. At that time in my life, I was meditating on a regular basis.
Yeah, because it opens up that funnel, a channel from the conscious mind into the subconscious and on to the universal consciousness, where you have access to everything. You can know things from the future or the past, and you can do things like you otherwise cannot do. And that's why I teach people how to do this, because it is so important. It opens up the mind, and you can start improving your life in many, many different ways.
Now, let's say you want to use it to get a major outcome in your life. What would be the steps? Let's say somebody really wants a whole new career from what they're doing. Okay. So what would be the steps?
Yeah, let's go there. Let's say that, let's say you're a little bit younger and you want a specific thing to happen both in education, marriage, and you want your life to progress in a certain direction. Spend some time visualizing into effect the whole thing from where you are all the way up through maybe years down the road. The amazing thing is people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life. No wonder the life goes to shit sometimes. Because things happen. And if you today, let's say that you want something, let's say you want a new house.
And I do. Actually, that'd be a good one for me. I do want that.
Your own house, let's say a year from now. You have no idea how it can happen. First of all, start looking at houses and find out one that you really like. Make a floor plan, start drawing it out. And or go to open houses, find one that you love, find something similar, and know what you want. And then go in your mind and take that house that you have designed on paper or the one that you want, move it, let's say, into the future a year. And don't put a calendar date on it, because calendar dates are worthless what the source is concerned, but a time-coded event like a New Year's party where everybody that you call your friends are coming over to the house. You have a party and you're celebrating your new house. Everybody loves it. You're sitting around having a great time. That incident is what you want to visualize over and over and over again. Because in order for that incident to happen, everything in between has to fall into place. You don't care how it happens. All you care about is that New Year's party will happen in your new house with your friends and your wife and your kids and your friends' kids and everybody that you care about. So now you go back and forth at least a couple of times a day. Visualize that thing happening in the future. Do that over and over and over again. Every time you do it, you lay down attractor strings to it. And those strings, they're little bitty white strings that you can't see normally when you keep your eyes open, but visualize them when your eyes are closed and you see that thing in your mind. The more you do it, the stronger and thicker those strings will become, and they pull you up that timeline to that thing in the future. And while you're doing this, also do everything you can in the meantime to help it happen. You remember the saying, God will give you the nut, but he won't crack it. So we got to do our part. So I don't care how you do your part. I mean, buy lottery tickets or also add something to it, like for the good of all concerned when you're visualizing that thing. It is mine for the good of all concerned. Because
it is mine for the good of all concerned. Why say those particular words that way?
That's good. Because you don't want all that money dumped on you because somebody died and you got an inheritance.
That's a great point. That's a great point. But okay, let's get to this. Maybe I have some personal reasons probably for this. You know, but you want to win the lotto. Like you focus on one lotto, one particular lotto. Could somebody really focus on that? Because you see some people that win multiple ones, and you're like, how the heck does that one jerk win like 3 different lotto things? Like if you focus on these things you want to win, or just focus on winning them, are you going to win them?
Well, I think one trick there is that playing the lottery is good, and I've talked to friends every so often. I tell them I buy a lottery ticket, and they say, I never do because I won't win anything anyway. And I say, yeah, that's why you don't win anything.
Right.
You don't play.
You can't win if you don't play.
Yeah. But I think also is that once you start meditating and meditate on the numbers, and I've had that happen. I have seen a series of numbers in front of me. I asked for the numbers and I saw the series of numbers. I wrote them down and I have used those numbers for over a year now.
So you're using the same numbers?
Yeah, but I screwed up. I asked for the numbers. I didn't ask for the week.
When it's going to happen, right? Well, I play like the free PCH lotto. I'll enter the same numbers.
Yeah.
Every day, or all week for like one of their ones, like 2.5 million or something. Whatever. Yeah, I'm doing it, people. Come on, man. I don't want to work. I work a retail job. Give me a break. But I can, sometimes I'll play the other lotto, but it's like you wonder, it could somebody take a set of numbers like you had, once the odds of them hitting those numbers eventually are still crazy odds.
Yeah.
But if they focused on those set of numbers winning, eventually, could they make those numbers win?
There is, in the national lottery, there is 1 out of chance of 32, I think it is, that you can win $4. I have won the $4 about 5 or 6 times over the last 3 months.
I've won 150 twice.
Oh, and you're
playing
way here.
the Hoosier State Lotto.
Yeah.
I got, what was it? I think it was 5 out of the 6. I can't remember. It's been years ago, but I did it twice. I was like, that's when I was like playing money, and I would play numbers, and I would try to like look at the set of numbers that hit and try to just visualize where the next balls would come. Or like, I picture the balls in my head that are popping up in the machine, and I would try to I get really good at it. I like make graphs and stuff. I try to like remote view the lotto,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to play with this stuff. And, but there again, meditation opens up the mind.
And I was meditating back then. I was. And it makes me wonder, it's like good reason, motivation there to get back in meditation to win the lotto, right? Well, I've been thinking about it recently. It's like, well, maybe there's a different approach. Maybe taking a set of numbers and just focusing on that. You pick a set of numbers or a number of numbers that you focus on, or even just one that you focus on. Because, I mean, they've talked about random number generators being affected by mass consciousness.
Yes.
Well, could we affect the outcome of the lotto? You got a lot of different wills play. Everybody wants to win the lotto. Only one person or a couple people are going to win it, but can somebody break through that, change the matrix and make it that set of numbers that that are theirs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I tell you, I have been involved in so many things that I have learned so much that there is really nothing that'll blow me away anymore. Everything is possible.
Oh yeah, I believe that. That's the grain of my existence is I believe anything could be possible. I mean, from my childhood, I saw crazy things that, that blow my mind, but I know were real, that I saw that it's just, I guess I've been set up from my earliest memories to know that reality isn't what everybody is trying to tell me it is.
Yeah. And even if people start meditating, they also become more intuitive. They become more psychic. In fact, it opens up the third eye to the point where you can know what people are going to say before they are saying it. In fact, if you sit around on the phone ring and somebody's name pop into your mind, it could very well be often. I have that happen all the time now. When the phone ring, I usually know who it is, unless it is, some sales call, then I'm blank. But
Mine is seeing a face and thinking it's someone. It isn't, but then I end up seeing that person like 2 minutes later.
Yeah,
really seeing them. That happens to me all the time. I'll be driving in a car and I'll suddenly think of somebody, and then I'll see them in that car driving by too.
Yeah.
That happens to me like all the time, and I probably since my 20s when I started meditating, it still happens to me. I'm not meditating now, but it still happens to me all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And these things come to you, and there's one place where you can get grounded to the earth and have brilliant ideas. You can communicate with the universal source better than anywhere else. That's what I have found, and that is in the shower. You always get brilliant ideas in the shower. And answers to questions, because we have the water running over us and it goes down the tube and we are totally grounded to the earth.
That makes sense. They say you have to ground yourself. For me, I can't get up in the morning unless I take a shower. My skin hates it because I got psoriasis. But my wife's like, you shouldn't take a shower every day. I cannot wake up in the morning or I feel like completely not myself if I don't take a shower before I hit the day. That's just how I am. I guess I have to get grounded in the morning because I've been dreaming crazy stuff at night.
Yeah. Another thing that happens when you start meditating, that you're going to start seeing things. Once you sit in your meditation, you decide that I want to see, and then decide what you want to see, and then say it in your mind. It won't probably happen the first time, but leave it go. Just keep doing it, and you will have visions of things that you want to see. Let's say you're separated by someone several thousand miles away, and you haven't seen them for 8 years. You want to visit the person. Tell yourself you want to see him, and keep doing that. Once you get good at lowering your brain wave down into the bottom of the alpha range or even below, you're going to have some of these things happening. And once it happens, it will change your life, because then you're not just in existence where there's wearing a blood and bone suit here with hangnails.
Yeah,
there's to it than that.
Well, is there a way somebody can prove it to themselves, like a baby step way of affecting their reality to help them realize that it's real? Because I feel that's the first crutch. You have to realize that it is a real effect.
If somebody starts meditating, that evidence of something special is going to come very quickly.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't realize that's the evidence. Like it took me years later to realize some of the things that happened to me. It was happening while I was meditating, but during that time period, you know. One of the things, you know, it just, you know, I guess I'm trying to get at is like, what would be good advice for people that are they've never done any meditation? Like they want to get into this. They want to start visualizing, you know, what's one of the first basic ways for them to get started?
Well, first of all, I would say it is very important to be able to empty your mind out and get rid of unwanted thoughts.
That's really hard for me.
Yeah, I got a trick for you. I run into people that have meditated for 20 years and they still can't empty their mind out. But there's a trick to that. And here it is. If you sit and meditate, look straight ahead on the wall, find a spot on the wall or something on the wall, and then cross your eyes just a little bit. So now you see two spots. And then close your eyes. Keep your eyes crossed while you are having your eyes closed. Don't cross them so much that it hurts, but just a little bit so that the mind is busy doing something that does not take thought to do. This dulls the mind and everything goes away.
One of the things, experiences I've had during meditation, I still have it. It's like an after effect when I feel it. I'm not meditating, but it's something I discovered when I was meditating, and now it affects me when I go to sleep at night. Still years later, is I started to see images. You see images in your mind's eye, like your imagination. But these are images I see in my visual eye, but with my eyes closed. And it's in, when you close your eyes and you suddenly bring the darknesses and you see the purple.
Okay, yeah.
It's like that. I see the purple, but the purple turns into actual images of places and people. And it's like a black and white image. And sometimes that image, when I first started doing it, it would happen in meditation. And that black and white image would turn like crystal color. Like I was suddenly in the image. It still happens to me. I've not been meditating, but it happens to me when I lay down. And I feel like there's a lot to get into, but one of the things when I started meditating, I didn't understand was chakras. And I would feel pressure in the front of my head. And I also feel like this shift in this pressure in my visual range, like maybe it's my eyes going up in my head, but I feel the pressure go like up in my head. Like I'm like looking up in my head. And that's when I see that purple swirl turn into faces and places and things. And it showed me things before. It showed me my grandfather after he had died. It was one of the most crazy meditation experiences I ever had. It was not long after my grandfather died. And I saw him on this bank of this river. It was during a guided meditation to basically see the dead that I was trying to do. And I saw him, and, people, well, that's what you wanted to see, but it was so real, Aage, like that swirling purple that starts with black and white that I still see at night. Well, it was like the scene in Wizard of Oz when you go from black and white to the color, you're suddenly in Oz. It suddenly went boom. And I'm like in Oz, everything's color. The plant life there is beautiful. And he's on this riverbank and he's crossed the river from me. And, and it was like nobody was speaking. I could hear his thoughts. He could hear mine. And he was telling me, I was getting the regrets that he had because we had a very distant kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the person I was trying to seek on the other side at all. Even though he had just died, that's how our distant relationship was. But it was him that came up.
Well, he probably wanted to contact you.
Yeah, that's how I felt. But it was one of, that's why I do want to get back into meditation, because that was one of the crazy. I've had a lot of crazy paranormal experiences, but that was the craziest meditation paranormal experience, in my opinion. Maybe it was all in my head or not, but it felt so real. It felt like I was there. It went from just seeing these images in my head to suddenly, boom, I'm in another place for just a little bit of time. But it was one of the craziest experiences I've had with meditation. Do you think somebody can, like Christopher Reeves, in Somewhere in Time, get that intense of a meditation? It can take them to another place.
Yeah, I think so, because it isn't that hard to do. All you have to do is will it. You can will yourself there. You set the stage for the encounter, you visualize it, and then let go, and the mind will follow.
And then the other thing is, is manifesting reality. One of the things I think back, we get in the conspiracy talk again too, is like Project Montauk. They had the Aurora chair, and where they were using children with psychic abilities with this chair that somehow enhanced that, and they could manifest actual objects like what's his name, Baba Gigi, I can't get the name right, but that's basically what these kids were doing. And the story goes that one of them created a monster, and that's hence like kind of the Stranger Things ripoff. But that's the thing, can we create our own shadow? Some people have told me the shadow person experience was really was emanating from me, even though it was affecting 2 other people I knew. Can we manifest our own monsters that way too?
Well, those monsters may be very real in a parallel universe, because the reason we see shadow figures at the corner of our eye, and when we look over there, they're gone, is because the periphery of the retina can pick up higher vibratory light than the center of the retina.
You have more optical receivers on that side. It's a survival thing, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But my shadow person experience, I'll tell you, Aage, like I said, I saw it started out with something in the corner of my eye, but I actually would see this thing full on in front of me. This dark is dark, no darker than you could ever imagine. And like 7 foot, 6 foot tall. It was tall. I think, but I always say 7 foot tall because it seemed taller than any 6 foot person I knew. But yeah. So, I talked to a lot of people that believe in the universal consciousness, and yeah, I'm sure the most important message you have for people is love. But I always go to the dark side because of my experience that there's also these dark things. How does that all play into this, the dark side of this?
Well, it all depends on what is in our mind. And if I think back on me 20 years ago, I was, people didn't know it, but I was in a dark place because I got to, I was hosting and producing 2 TV shows in Tucson, and on both of them, I was very involved in politics and exposing the wrongdoings of government. And then I got talked into running for Congress, got on the ballot, and I humiliated my opponent every time he opened his mouth, because politicians, when they open their mouth,
they're always lying. Yeah.
So I created some very serious enemies because of that. And that was the timeline that I was in. But I'm not there anymore. Things are going to be different in this timeline because I've designed it different. It's going to be a good timeline where it's going to be a lot of good learning experiences. And for me, it's going to be all right.
My early 20s, around the time I was meditating, I was carrying a lot about what's going to happen in the world and all that stuff. And I remember I said, I was deep into it. I was in the Libertarian Party. I was totally into politics. And then I got to a point in my life, I'm like, this is just, I got to let all this go, because there's nothing I'm doing that's changing a damn thing to what's happening. And I just want to live my life.
I know. And I came to that too, but well, we grow, I guess. And
but maybe we jumped into the same timeline. We both didn't do politics, and we're getting into more spiritual, higher thoughts.
Yeah.
But that's what's important to me. That to me is why aren't more people interested in the things we're talking about? It boggles my mind. So many people write this off or don't have any care or any interest in their own reality of what's going on around them. They take so much for granted that's happening around them. I say more and more, everybody's looking down their cell phones. They're not noticing the weirdness that is life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was on the libertarian ticket too.
See, we're both libertarians. See, I knew I liked you, Aage. We're going to go to our last commercial break here. We come back. Call in, people. Phone lines are open. We're quiet tonight. Maybe we're blowing people's minds tonight, Aage. I think that's what we're doing. But you can call in 219-230-4444, or you can call in on Skype ID Jblandparanormalsoup. Tell us, have you had one of those deja vu shifts in consciousness or shifts to another reality? Do you believe that's happening to you? I'd love to hear it because I think a lot of people experience this and write it off. They don't understand what happened to them. Maybe you shifted into a new reality. Do you think that's happened to you? I think it's happened to me several times. How I got into this reality, I don't know with some of the things, but maybe I'll shift into a better one. I don't know. But let's all shift together after this next commercial break. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college. I've got a family to support and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon Leicester Square.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Phantasm, the film that puts the fun in funeral. And as for a fiendish story, it does have a variable plot. Come prepared to scream, because if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm from Avco Embassy Pictures. Rated R under 17, not admitted without parent or guardian.
Oh, midnight preview tonight, UA Westwood Theater.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and interfacediff.net.
In the beginning, the universe was created. This made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest has been Aage Nost. We're talking about all things universal consciousness, time travel, parallel universes, using the power of the mind to move a hurricane. Amazing power there the mind can do. We can control and affect reality. Even at the subatomic particle level, scientists have proven that our mind, our consciousness, affects the outcome of the result of their test. The mind at a subatomic level is affecting reality. That spreads out. We all, in a way, together can affect the reality of that storm. That would be amazing. Amazing. Tonight, though, you can call in. We do got somebody on hold, but the Skype line is open. Jblandparanormalsoup. We got somebody on there right now. And then 219-230-4444. Call in tonight. Have you had, I'm really interested in the parallel universe theory. Have you felt you've jumped to a different timeline? Have you had that Mandela effect? I'd love to hear any of those stories tonight. So call into the show and speak with me and our guest, Aage Nost, about all these different rabbit holes we've been going down tonight. But let's go ahead and get rolling back into the show. Thanks for hanging in there with me, Aage.
Yeah.
Now, we do have somebody on the phone line I want to get here. I believe it's Mike on the line. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Good, Jason. Can you hear me? Or
I hear you just fine, bud. I hear you.
Oh, no, you don't hear noise or nothing? Okay.
I do hear a weird noise in the background. I do, but I hear you.
You want me to cut that off? You want me to cut that off? Or?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, let me get past. Let me go grab that. If I can get up. Let me see. Take that off. Whoops. There we go. Okay, that should quiet it up, huh? So you probably got me clear. Oh, okay.
So, what do you got for us tonight, Mike?
All right, I studied psychology for about 4 years, and another, and then I went to the graduate. I got about 2 years of graduate level, but anyway, I wasn't always too interested with healing. But there's many studies out there, and I think there's evidence that suggests that the power of prayer in a group setting can have an effect on patients or people who are pretty critical, critical in the hospitals. So I wish I could speak to some of that data, but I do believe there's a collective energy of intention, as a matter of fact. And then I started in my blog over here on your chat. I started to speak about biblical. I'm a Christian. Well, I was baptized a Christian. I'm not sure if I'm a Christian. Excuse me. I was baptized one. Wow, what happened there? But I was saying, I was thinking of what Jesus was saying in the Bible about where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. Well, if you're here, heal this person, right? You're thinking about stuff like that.
That's the point I was bringing up about the Bible. It really emphasizes the point of two or more people, coming together for an intent.
Yeah, it's a mini master.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
What is your friend think about that? What is his? How you doing, Mr. Aage? Is it
Aage?
Yeah.
Aage. Yeah. Oh, okay, Aage. My name is Mike.
Aage. We got it, Aage.
Oh, okay.
That led Lady Gaga. That's what I sound like. It's all right, Mike.
Okay. I'll remember Lady Gaga and then Aage, Okay. Oh, by the way, agape is love. It's Greek.
Oh.
It's one step beyond brotherly love. Agape. You can look that up later. We can't go there. We're getting off course.
Yeah, we want to get off track.
Okay, ask him again the question.
You asked the question. He can hear you right now.
We had the question. In the Bible, Jesus. As a matter of fact, I was I don't know. I heard something, and might have been a couple weeks ago or whatever. There was so many miracles they could not. And I don't know if I could believe this. It was researched that there was so many miracles from this Jesus that they could. There's not enough trees. This is probably a bad example. There's not enough trees you can make out of paper to record them. I mean, what? Okay, that's one thing. But let's just get back to healing, huh? So we're in the image. If we're in the image of God, and Jesus said He is God, but therefore, we should be able to heal other people. And I knew of healing priests, one that has passed away, and there was a couple of healings that were associated with him, and he would lay hands on. You would go to his healing service. His name was Father Peter Mary Rookie, by the way. Not that it matters, but he would lay hands and have a cross, press it onto your forehead, and he did.
Well,
he healed.
What's the question, Mike? Though, what's the question you're trying to get at?
Well, we can heal probably ourselves and other people, and even more so in a group. And it has to do with meditation, intention. I call it. Meditation is probably synonymous.
Well, what's your question for Aage though?
Oh, what does he think about healing? Does he think it can go down? I mean, does he think it can happen? And is it more possible within groups?
Let's get Aage's take on all that.
Yeah. Let me answer that because first of all, when two or more people are united in my name, then I'm there with you. That two or more people united for a common purpose and visualizing or thinking or talking about the same thing, it's kind of like a mini mastermind. So now you are multiplying the mind power, the two or more of them that is together. So I can see how that will be better. And also people going into the hospitals. Like here in Tucson, there's one hospital where they allow Reiki practitioners to go in, work with people. My co-host on the Universal Consciousness show is a Reiki master, and she is helping people at a distance, thousands of miles away, and they feel better when they're done. She can actually help them get rid of ailments or illnesses or things like that.
And she's hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, and this is alive and well. Science knows it, but they don't dare to talk about it.
Yeah. I think we just opened the door of where I was going to go. There's something called psychic healing, psychic surgery. I don't know if does that bounce off of your brain cells, Jason? Psychic surgery?
Well, yeah, I've heard of psychic surgery, and I know Aage has.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
go ahead, Aage.
Yeah, psychic surgery is a real thing, but there are also a lot of fakes in there that gives it a bad rap. So we gotta be a little careful with that, especially down in the Caribbean. There, I mean, on every street corner there is one doing psychic surgery, and they're usually there just.
They're like, oh, we pulled the tumor out of you, and they got this bloody thing they got in their hands, and it's just a sleight of hand that they do.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but it is a real thing if you get to a spiritual person that know how to do it.
You don't need to go through all the dramatic stuff like they do with the fakes. When you're talking about people that are just doing it sitting in their home, hundreds of miles away from somebody. Well, Mike, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, wait. Can I ask one more thing?
Yeah,
what does he think? What does he think about holding hands like a seance? You talk, and I'll hang up. I mean,
with like the power of people when they bring that
power of holding connection of a people around a table. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Right. Opening a portal to another realm, basically, when you have people centered on that thought. Oh, I'm sure that's possible.
Yeah. Ask Aage about that one.
I don't think the holding of hand is what is important.
Right.
I think what's important is the unity of mind by the people that is holding hands.
Yep, exactly.
That's what makes the difference. You get the mastermind effect.
We can't hold hands on the internet, Mike, but we do those ITC shows.
You were thinking about that.
We do the ITC shows together. All of us focused on the spirits coming through. I do ITC by myself. I don't feel like I get that much. I bring on the show live, and I get all these crazy responses on there, and it's because I think I got so many people all focused on this intent of opening up a doorway, and it might open up a doorway I don't want to open up. But thank you, Mike, for calling in.
Great. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
All right, you too.
Thank you, Avi. Okay.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, phone line should open back up. I know I've had a couple people trying to call in, 219-230-4444. You can call in at Skype ID Jblandoo. But yeah, you know, we do these ITC shows, and we've had some stuff happen. And even when I was on Heather Wade's show and I was doing ITC on hers, I come walk, and you know, she's got a lot more listeners than I do. Okay. And I come walking down the stairs and I see this 6-foot translucent figure walk through my basement in the middle of a commercial break while I'm doing her show. I'm like, oh boy, that was the, you know, because what were we doing that night? We're doing live spirit box. We're opening up the doorway, man. You know, and I got all these other people. I don't know, you know, she's got hundreds and hundreds of listeners listening, and we're opening up a doorway. Unlike my show, I mean, I got some listeners, but nowhere near hers. And that was the first night I got to do it with her. And I felt like, oh, I might have to tell my wife to ward the house or something. We got another person on the phone here, 480 area code. Who do we got on the line?
Hey, Jason, it's Zach. How's it going?
Hey, Zach, thanks for calling in.
All right, I just have one question for tonight. Aage, very nice to meet you. I love everything that you're saying. I'm going to go back to really the concept of time travel. Really, I know that you were talking about mentally preparing if you wanted to go back in time. You had to mentally prepare yourself. But my question is, though, how do you prepare your other 4 senses as well when traveling back in time? Because for me personally, what I would love to do is to go back to like the 1950s, for example, because I'd want to try a pre-embargo Cuban cigar.
I knew you were going to say that.
How would I do that?
I don't know the best way I would do that. I would go to Cuba and buy some.
But if he didn't want to go to Cuba, he wanted to go travel back in time and actually smoke a 1950s cigar. He can't go to Cuba. He just wants to use his mind to do it. Can he do it?
Oh, I suppose that
Zach really likes his cigars.
I don't know, because there is this, the universe has a safety valve in it, and it also has a filter. The filter is based on need. And also if you use an electronic device to go back, let's say 2,000 years and see what's going on in the Middle East right then, how do you get back if you do physical time travel if you don't have electricity? So you got challenges like that. I would say if there is a need that will help the many, that makes it more apt for you or easier for you to do these kinds of things. If it is just for self-gratification, it always seems to be more difficult.
Just got shut down there by
or curiosity.
Darn.
Especially if you don't smoke.
Now you're really getting shut down. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in.
All right, brother. Thank you, Aage, for answering my question, man. I greatly appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Well, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. You know, the Rolling Stones there. Wish I could play copyrighted music, but it makes you wonder because, like, you know, you talk about visualization. I was a musician. I pictured myself playing in bands and traveling and getting a record deal, man. Yeah. I used to think of all that stuff when I was in my teens and early 20s. I visualized it hard. I wanted it hard. And boy, I'm glad I didn't get what I visualized and wanted.
Oh, you and me both. Man, oh man.
Because I know people that did my friends of mine that went into that life and they enjoy it. They do enjoy it. I know now I wouldn't have. I would not have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, in the end, it's just not who I became or who I wanted to be. I'm not that I enjoy music. I did that part, but the bands, the playing, the traveling, I would have not enjoyed it at all. So it's like, even though I visualized it and I really, really thought then I wanted it, it's like the universe knew to know that's not what you want. Definitely not what you want.
Yeah. That guy that called in about the Cuban cigars, I think he's probably in his late 50s.
No,
and
he's not. He's
Huh?
not at all. I think he's a couple years younger than me.
Oh, okay. I think there's something else he should be thinking about, and that is maybe as he expands into the future, here's an issue that a lot of people should think about, and that is, did you know that in 2009, 3 doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process.
Really?
And I'm doing it, and it's working for me.
Oh, I'd love to know that. I just turned 40 this year, so please share.
All right. First of all, go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, scroll down to medical submissions, and read the papers. You're going to like it.
I will.
On my, both on my, it's probably about 3 weeks or so ago in my Facebook page, I put an article that I wrote explaining how this works, because science have found what causes aging and death. It is caused by the chromosomes in the cells are degrading at the tips. The tip of the chromosomes they're kind of like a hardened tip, like the end of a shoelace. It's called the telomeres. And for every time the cell divides, that telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter every time. And when it gets so short that there is nothing left, the chromosomes start fraying, and the cell will not be able to replicate itself, and you get stuck with old cells in the body, more and more of them, until they get so much you get old and die.
What's the name of the website again?
www.universal-consciousness-show. So if you go into
if people are watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you want that is in the description of the show. You'll find the link to that website.
Yeah, and if you go down, I think it's page 6 or 7 in the blogs, you can read about what I'm doing, and also in my book, Spiritual Science, Higher Consciousness Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. I explain in detail what I do and the things that I do. I found a guy in China. He was 256 years old when he died from an accident. I'm doing exactly the same thing he is doing.
Oh, well, and I want to know. We do got somebody else on the line I want to get to before we run out of time. 419 area code. Who do we got?
This is Josh.
Hi, Josh. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good.
Hey, what do you got on your mind?
Well, Jason, you came to a shop in Westville.
Ah, that Josh.
Yeah. Ever since then, I think something followed me home.
Uh-oh. What's been happening short, because we're going to run out of time for the show, but what's been happening, Josh?
I have seen multiple shadow people.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Middle of the night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, my dog will start growling. I'll be dead asleep, and then boom, I'll get up and I'll come out in my kitchen area, and I always see the shadow person. It's almost like he follows me out, and then he'll run across into the other hallway. And then even I've seen him outside when I took the dog out at night. All of a sudden you see, or even dusk, I've seen a shadow in my backyard. And my water in my bathroom, it will turn on.
All by itself?
All by itself, dude. And
All
then
right, well, we're going to have to talk off air at some point this week about what's going on. Because adverse effect of sometimes when we were doing, I don't always, I was telling you this, Josh, I had an investigation at this location, and it was a building, not a house. And I don't like to do ITC at residential investigations, but we did ITC at this shop, and sometimes it opens up some stuff for some people. So we need to talk after this week, Josh. Okay.
Okay.
We'll make sure you're all right. Do you have any comments for help for him on this? Have you seen these kind of things, Aage?
Well, it is all in the mind, because remember what we talked about in the very beginning?
I agree with this.
There is nothing outside of you except for what you create in your mind, and you agreed to go through and experience these things, because the subconscious mind creates new mind programs, and this is one that excites you, and it loves to keep you busy and excited.
Yes.
I think the best way to do is to say, look here, that was an experience that I had. I have no interest in it anymore, and shut it off. Don't think about it.
Exactly.
And insist on it going away. It may not go away right away, but insist, ignore it, and sooner or later these thought forms that has imposed themselves into your existence in the mind, they will get bored with you and move on.
Oh, we need like another hour of show, man, to get into this. But yeah, Aage couldn't have said it more perfectly, Josh, because my shadow person experience, I've talked about what I learned the hard way is that you are the one that gives them power. They want your attention. And you cannot give it to them. And you're the one with power. You can make them easily go away. And I've never been bothered really by them ever since, after my experience, because I honestly, I'm still agnostic. I believe in a God, but I don't belong to religion. I called to God and said, God, help me. And that's when I became a believer in something divine or higher power than myself. It's part of myself, I guess. I don't know, but it never had a problem with it ever again. And I realized that I had nothing to fear from these things. They had no control over me.
They will never hurt you unless you let them.
And I let them with my fear. So don't give them fear. That's the last thing you want to do. We're getting close to the end here, Josh. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for calling in and you get in touch with me. You have me as a Facebook friend, right?
I believe so. I can get in contact with you.
Yeah. If anything, message me on Facebook and then I'll get you my number on there, or get it from well, I don't think she has it either, Sarah, but I have her on Facebook too, but I'll make sure somehow we get in touch. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm working on that evidence. I'll have that evidence for you here soon. I've been working on it in the last week or so.
All righty.
All right, man. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that happens sometimes. I do paranormal investigations and I don't do a lot, but like I said, I don't do the ITC thing because it can freak people out. And some people have experiences like this afterwards. You know, I warn people, if your intent is to communicate with the other side, then you might communicate with something. I don't know what you're going to communicate with. I compare it to I don't know how much you've ever seen Star Wars. I compare a lot of things to it. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now. But the cave there's a scene in Empire Strikes Back where Luke goes to the cave of Dagobah. I say this on the show all the time, but I hit this home with people, is that Yoda tells him, don't bring your weapons into the cave with you. You don't need them. And Luke looks at him like, yeah, you're right. Big, dark, spooky cave I'm bringing my guns with and my lightsaber. And what happens? He meets Darth Vader in the cave of Dagobah and they get in a fight. And he finds out after he chops off his head that Darth Vader turns into him, that it was fighting himself. Because he came in there with the intent that he's going to meet something bad. And that's what happened. That's what I believe the shadow people are like.
Yep. Absolutely.
And your advice to him is like exactly perfect. You know, that you can't give these things any kind of fear, attention, or control or power.
That's right. And if he's still listening, can also surround himself in a bubble of white light. That will also help.
Yeah. You know, you said thought form too, which I find something I've been fascinated with. Atopa, the Tibetan belief of making a thought form out of meditation and focus. And I think this happens all the time in reality with people, that thought forms are created all the time without people knowing it.
Yeah, it'll do.
You know, this was what I wonder. You know, you talk about a changing reality. Well, the mastermind you talk about sounds like it's an entity of its own that you're creating between a group of people.
Well, the thing is that since there is nothing outside of you except for what you create from your mind as an expression,
it's all you.
Holographic image that you're living in, you are creating those shadow people.
Well, in the end, we're all, I am you, you are me, we're all one, right?
Yeah.
So even the demons and monsters and all that is all us too.
Yeah.
Why do you think, though, if this is all one consciousness in its multi forms, why does it take on the form of evil?
It's because your mind expects it, or your mind will excited by it. So the subconscious create that image to excite the conscious mind, which again creates emotions, which the mind will feed on it.
Can't have a good story. You can't have a good story without an antagonist.
Yeah.
Well, so I've always been interested in writing and novels and story, because to me, it's a perception. It's an archetype of reality that we need these things in life to keep us interested. I mean, when we dream, we make up scenarios in our head. You know, it's our subconscious doing it, but it's a story. It's keeping our interest in the dream, just like a story does.
And some of those dreams may not necessarily be dreams. They could be astral trips, or they could be other things.
True. We didn't even get into astral travel and all that. So many rabbit holes to go down. I want to make sure now you have 2 shows. You have the Universal Consciousness show and the Broadcast Team Alpha. When can people find those shows?
Universal Consciousness show. The Universal Consciousness show we do on Wednesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 8 o'clock in the afternoon, East Coast time. And my co-host, Nori Love there, she is the one that I mentioned being the Reiki master. And
we need to get her on the show.
Yeah, she speaks better about this than I do. And then the Universal Consciousness show, I have a co-host over in Germany, Diana Seraphims. Tremendous Mind, and we do that on in fact tomorrow at 11 o'clock on KCOR Radio in Las Vegas, kcorradio.com.
So I can listen to it on the website there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm a huge fan. I've listened to some of your interviews before. I heard you on Heather Wade recently. I heard you on there before, and I'm like, God, I got to get this guy on, because, I mean, like I said, I tell people, I've never had a religion. I don't ever see myself belonging to religion, but I have an idea in my mind. I'm not an atheist. I'm not a total agnostic, because I have certain beliefs, and one of my beliefs is that we do share this universal consciousness, that it affects reality, and that in the end we are all one. We are all some beings, good or bad dream or neutral dream. I don't know.
Yeah, we are one with the universal consciousness, with an individualized offshoot off of that is given a kind of individualized spark of life that we are living in. But we are still one with the universal consciousness. So if we know and understand that, we have access to that knowledge and resources that we find in that soup of creation. And that's where the disconnect is from most people. They think that, well, what I see around me is real, and I'm here in the physical. Of course, maybe they think they have a soul, but they're still disconnected.
Because it's the individual. It's hard. The ego wants to say, I am me and me alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to think that I am this person next to me. I am them. But in the end, what is love but empathy and connecting with somebody else and understanding how they feel?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like we're losing in society. That's what scares me. I know it's at the end we'd love to end on a lovely note, but that's the thing I was hitting at the beginning of the show before you were on the news segment, is that we're having people that are losing that connection somehow. I think that's the ultimate form of evil, is disconnect from humanity.
It takes a while to wake up from the time that you get the spark that something's wrong, something different. You start looking. It still takes a while to wake up.
Well, maybe these things that are happening are an adverse effect of humanity waking up.
Oh, absolutely it is. You betcha.
Do you think we're on a verge of an awakening?
People are waking up in hordes.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. During the next probably 12 to 16 months, you're going to see the biggest changes in this country's history are going to happen during that time.
We didn't even get into aliens or any of that tonight. I mean, that's so many topics I wanted to get into, but talk about the disclosure movement. We got to have you on again, Aage. We really do. Because I truly enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, there's so many things we didn't even get into I wanted to get into tonight, but that always happens. Time goes by quick. So thank you so much for being on.
Oh, you betcha. I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Everybody, next week we're going to have returning guests Jimmy Pentonito and Bill Hall on. I cannot wait. We're going to talk about their book I've had for a while now. oh God, now I forgot the name of the book. I was sitting here, but it's about electronic communication or messages from the other side using electronic communication. It totally slipping my mind the name of the book. Sorry, Jim. Sorry, Bill, but we'll get it because you'll be on next Sunday. All right. Thank you, Aage. You have a great night. That's it for the show, guys. Don't forget to check us out on Patreon. You can help by donating $2 a month and get exclusive content. I'm working on the EVP show I'm going to do for the exclusively for Patreon this week, probably starting it tomorrow. You get to hear all the, not all, but because I have too many, but a lot of the EVPs I've caught over the years on my paranormal investigations I'm going to be doing there and talking about EVP theory. So help the show. Patreon. Check us out. Paranormal Soup, Jason Bland on Patreon. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube so you don't miss out. And thanks everyone who shares the show out. I saw so many people sharing the show out in the post. I love all of you guys. That's the biggest help out there, just sharing the show. If anything you do, share the show out. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next week.
Thank you.